Presentations and proclamations. We'll have Councilor McClure.
Hello, everyone. All right, if I could call forward, I believe Jennifer Gorham. This is going to be for the National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Got to get closer, sorry. Hey. All right. Whereas, when an emergency occurs, the prompt response for police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel is dependent upon the quality of accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority Communication Center. And whereas professional public safety telecommunicators are a vital link between citizens and victims and are the first and the most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority are the first responders who contribute substantially as part of the public safety team. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year, now therefore we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the week of April 13th to 19th, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our communities and citizens safe.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Vanessa Ordonez, and I'm the police chief down in Anthony, New Mexico. I have also been on the MRVDA board for almost 7 years and the past year as the MRVDA chairwoman. Thank you for having us here today. I have witnessed firsthand, both while sitting on the board and during my response to calls for service, how important our dispatchers are to our community. The tragic event of March 21st was a reminder of how critical their roles are in being the first link to survival. This month is a month to recognize our dispatchers for assisting our citizens and our first responders during emergencies, and we celebrate their efforts to keeping our community safe by providing critical life-saving services every day. I would like to introduce an amazing leader in our community who takes great pride in the oversight of over 50 employees at Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority, a remarkable woman who leads with great passion and purpose to help others, the MRVDA Executive Director, Ms. Jennifer Gorham. Thank you.
So good afternoon, Mayor, City Councilors. Hello, sir. On behalf of Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority, I want to sincerely thank you for proclaiming the week of April 13th through 19th, 2025 as National Public Safety Telecommunicator Week. This recognition means so much to the dedicated men and women of MRVDA who serve as the critical first point of contact in emergencies. Since our formation in 1995, MRVDA has proudly served the City of Las Cruces, Doña Ana County, and the other incorporated municipalities within the county. In 2024 alone, our team handled over 347,000 telephone calls, each one representing someone in need. Our telecommunicators are the first line of defense in public safety. They provide the common chaos, clarity in confusion, and life-saving support before first responders arrive on scene. It is time that in the state of New Mexico, these dedicated professionals are officially recognized and reclassified as first responders. They have earned that title. And I thank you again for this proclamation and your continued support of our team.
Next, we have Child Abuse Prevention Month, if you're here for that. Not sure who. Oh, there we are. Come on down. Come closer. It's okay. It's okay. Are we waiting for anyone else? The gang's all here? All right. I'm going to say that's a yes. All right. Whereas the City of Las Cruces, Families and Youth Innovations Plus, FYI Plus, New Mexico Children, Youth and Families Department, and other community partners recognize April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and whereas every child deserves to grow up in a safe, nurturing environment free from harm, fear, and neglect, and whereas child abuse and neglect are serious issues impacting the well-being of children and families in Las Cruces and across New Mexico, as indicated by 272 cases of child abuse reported in Doña Ana County over a recent one-year period. And whereas child abuse prevention is a community responsibility, and effective support systems, including strong families, engaged neighbors, educators, social workers, and advocates, are vital to protecting children and preventing abuse before it occurs. And whereas organizations like FYI Plus, New Mexican Children, Youth and Family Services Department, first responders, schools, child welfare organizations, and dedicated community members play a critical role in providing support and protection to children in need. And whereas Child Abuse Prevention Month is a time for communities to come together in raising awareness, supporting survivors, and working towards solutions that create a safer, healthier future for all children. And whereas the City of Las Cruces stands committed to building the culture of awareness, advocacy, and action to ensure that no child suffers in silence and that families have access to the resources they need to thrive. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Child Abuse Prevention Month in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and urge all residents to join in this observation by taking action to protect children, to support families, and to help foster a community where every child is safe, valued, and empowered to reach their full potential. Would you like to speak?
April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, a time for all of us to come together to protect the most vulnerable members of our community, our children.
As mayor of Las Cruces, I have had the privilege of working alongside incredible organizations like Family and Youth Innovation Plus, New Mexico Children, Youth and Families Department, and the Las Cruces Public Schools. Every day I see the heart of this city in teachers, social workers, first responders, parents, and other neighbors who step up to protect our most vulnerable. Their dedication reminds us of the well-being of our children is not just a responsibility, it is a collective commitment we all share. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, a time when we must reaffirm that every child matters and deserves to grow up feeling safe, nurtured, and supported.
Yet, there is still work to do. According to CYFD's latest 13-month report, 1,880 cases of child abuse were reported across New Mexico, with 272 of those right here in Doña Ana County. These numbers represent the lives of children, our children, who rely on us to stand up, speak out, and take action.
I think particularly with CYFD, one of our goals is to work not only with families and individuals, but also community providers such as FYI Plus in ways that allow us to understand that in reality, we all hold an opportunity to help families thrive, to help families achieve things. And the goal behind a continuum of care for child abuse prevention is connecting individuals, families, community members to the resources, the supports, the services that they need in order to be successful, and in order to be successful in the way that they define success.
I've been working with Children, Youth and Families Department, for well over 20 years in different capacities, not just child abuse prevention and intervention or child abuse awareness. Really, our partnership spans across juvenile justice, We look at serving the age group of, really from birth all the way up to 22 with them. And we come alongside them just like they come alongside us to really support our families that really need it. For us here at FYI, our continuum of care model really includes resources, supports, and services. And so as Scott talked about earlier, you'll see that that really aligns closely with what they're trying to accomplish also. And so again, it's not just in child abuse and prevention, it's also in Family Resource Center. They supported us in really launching a Family Resource Center here in our agency, and they have supported us in so many other ways to help get these resources, supports, and services out there to our families.
And another thing we're doing as CYFT is really focusing in on foster parent recruitment. So we're really looking for how do we partner with individuals, adults, folks in the community to build opportunities for people who've been thinking about, I have a lot to offer and I could be a resource parent. I could be a respite resource parent.
We invite local businesses to show their support by joining the Make Cruces Royal campaign and showing their commitment to child abuse prevention. Businesses can take part by displaying a royal blue ribbon in their storefront, creating a royal blue themed product or service, sharing participation by tagging FYIPLUS.NM and NMCYFD for kids with the hashtag MakeCrucesRoyal. Here's how you can take action. Look out for signs of child abuse in your community. Consider becoming a foster parent or supporting foster families. Advocate for resources and services from organizations like FYI Plus that help children and families thrive. To access families and youth innovations, Plus's resources, supports, and services, you can visit one of our locations in Las Cruces. Call us at 575-522-4004 or visit our website at fyiplusnm.org.
As a city, we cannot turn away from this issue. If even one child is suffering, that is one child too many. Together, we are not just building a city. We are shaping the future where every child has the opportunity to grow, dream, and succeed. Thank you for making April Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Next is Fair Housing Month for those who are. Come on in. All right. Whereas fair and equal housing is a right guaranteed to all Americans, and whereas the principle of fair and equal housing is a fundamental human entitlement, and whereas the month of April 2025 represents the 57th anniversary of the signing of the Federal Fair Housing Act by then President Lyndon B. Johnson, and whereas all citizens have a right to live where they choose within their financial means, and whereas people must not be denied housing because of their race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or marital or family status. And whereas we must, as individuals, assure equal access to housing for all in our communities. And whereas New Mexico acknowledges the importance of assuring fair and equal treatment to all citizens, now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do here proclaim April 2025 as Fair Housing Month.
Good afternoon. I'm Natalie Green, the Housing Administrator for the City of Las Cruces, and I just want to thank the staff because they spend every day answering dozens of calls, taking fair housing, and addressing landlord-tenant issues, and it's really tough to hear people at some of their worst and have limited ability to help, so kudos to the staff for all they do.
Little switcheroo there. Mixing it up. Please, dark sky folks, come on up. This is in recognition of Dark Skies Month. Whereas aesthetic beauty and wonder of a natural night sky is a shared heritage of all humankind, and whereas the experience of standing under a starry night sky inspires feelings of wonder and awe, encouraging a growing interest in science and nature, particularly among young people and visitors to Las Cruces in southern New Mexico. And whereas the pervasive issue of light pollution has been scientifically linked to significant economic and environmental consequences, adversely affecting the ecology and human health. And whereas 80% of the world's population lives under a dome of light pollution, excessive artificial lighting at night that disrupts natural darkness, and may never experience the visual wonder or ecological health benefits of living under a dark sky. And whereas light pollution represents a waste of natural resources, accounting to roughly $3 billion per year of wasted energy in the United States, and contributes to diminished energy insecurity. And whereas the City of Las Cruces values natural dark skies and encourages our residents to adopt lighting practices that help preserve them. And whereas Dark Sky International, the globally recognized authority on light pollution, recognizes International Dark Sky Week to raise awareness of the effects of light pollution, to provide free education, resources, and solutions to the public, and encourage the protection of and enjoyment of dark skies and responsible outdoor lighting. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the week of April 21st to 28th, 2025 as International Dark Sky Week, and ask each resident to join us in not only observing and pondering upon this important week, but also raising awareness and support for protecting our precious dark sky as a resource.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Mayors. Thank you, everyone. My name's John Holtzman. I'm a local resident, emeritus professor at NMSU, and also chair of the State Council of the New Mexico chapter of Dark Sky International. The recognition of Dark Sky Week by the council is a great opportunity to recognize and celebrate an important natural resource that we have that not that many people think about that much, which is our night skies. A lot of people don't realize that we are in a privileged place. 80%, it's estimated, of the U.S. population has never seen the Milky Way. How many people have seen the Milky Way? Lots, I hope. And yeah, it's a great resource, and it's one of these things that we don't want to wait till we've lost it to recognize what we had. Viewing the night sky gives us perspective on where we fit into the grand scheme of things, inspires curiosity, wonder, and awe, not to mention just allowing us to relax and get ready for the next worldly battle. But a natural night sky provides a lot more than this. A lot of other species, like birds and pollinators, depend on a natural night sky, and we, in turn, depend on them. Several studies have suggested that artificial light adversely affects human health. I think we all know that a lot of excess light coming in our windows keeps us from sleeping well. Putting artificial light up in the sky where it's not needed, no use of anyone, wastes energy and wastes money. And having a natural night sky is a boon to local economies, as astrotourism is an increasingly popular draw. In fact, New Mexico True has a whole website and page on New Mexico's dark skies. And I just want to say that protecting our night skies does not mean that we cannot light our communities the way that we need to light them. It just means we need to implement lighting in a responsible way. The organizations Dark Sky International and the Illuminating Engineering Society have outlined 5 basic principles for how to implement responsible lighting. And essentially they just say use lighting where when and in the amount that it's needed, and if possible, use redder rather than bluer lights. It's easy to accomplish these objectives by using light fixtures that are shielded, that don't let light up in the sky, to use lights of a lower color temperature, and where appropriate to put lights on motion sensors and timers. Responsible lighting puts light on the ground where it's needed, doesn't put it up on the sky where it doesn't do anyone any good. Also, responsible lighting can actually increase safety and security by minimizing what we call glare. Many people have had the experience, if a light's shining directly in your eyes, you're actually blinded to be able to see stuff. We need to put the light on the things we want to see, not directly in our eyes. New Mexico does have a Night Sky Protection Act that requires shielding at some degree, and the city also has some ordinances that refer to lighting. Unfortunately, these have not prevented light pollution from increasing. It's estimated to increase about 10% each year. So we can and need to do better. And how do we do that? By educating people and talking about the issue, like I'm talking to you, potentially by strengthening our ordinances, and by figuring out how we can go about enforcing our ordinances. So I hope this proclamation will raise awareness of the issue and lead to improvements. Of all the issues we face, this one's actually a straightforward one that we can solve in a win-win way. Just keep the lights down to what we need. So thanks again to the council.
Next up, I invite my public health colleagues to come on up for National Public Health Week. Okay, good to see you. Good to see you guys. Whereas the week of April 7th, 2025 is National Public Health Week, and the theme is It Starts Here, highlighting the importance of making a difference in our home, community, and state. Whereas this year is the 30th anniversary celebrating National Public Health Week, and in the past 30 years, significant strides have been made in public health, including the following public health successes. Number one, smoking rates, which were as high as 25.5% among U.S. adults in 1994, have now fallen to 11.4% due to comprehensive smoke-free policies, public awareness campaigns, and taxation of tobacco products. Number two, childhood mortality, which was at a rate of 13.8 deaths per 1,000 live births in 1994, has now fallen to 5.4 deaths per 1,000 live births due to vaccines, better health care, and access to better nutrition. Number three, mental health awareness and treatment. With 40% of people with mental health conditions being untreated in 1994, this has progressed with increased awareness, parity laws, and integration into primary care, which has expanded access to mental health services and reduced treatment gaps. Number four, health impacts of climate change, such as rising heat-related deaths, were under-recognized in 1994, but are now being mitigated by actions such as public health campaigns, local adaptation plans, and cooling centers, and other preparedness plans to protect the public from extreme weather, wildfires, and preparedness, which was in its infancy in 1994, has now grown. Pandemic preparedness, it was in its infancy in 1994 and has now grown, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, spurring significant advancements in mRNA technology, global vaccine development, and increased investments in infrastructure, stockpiles, and global surveillance, all of which must be sustained. Whereas racial and ethnic minority populations in the United States continue to experience disparities in the burdens of illness and death as compared with the entire population of the United States. And whereas a person's health status can differ drastically by the zip code due to differences in the built environment, environmental health quality, community context, access to healthy food, access to education, and access to health care. And whereas public health organizations use National Public Health Week to educate policymakers, public health professionals, and the public on issues that are important to improving public health in the United States. And whereas Las Cruces and Doña Ana County have many public health professionals and students at DACC and NMSU in training, promotores de salud, allied healthcare workers, and others who work every day to ensure the health of our community. And whereas efforts to adequately support public health and the prevention of disease and injury continue to transform a health system focused on treating illness into a health system focused on preventing disease and injury and promoting wellness. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and City Council of Las Cruces, New Mexico, do hereby proclaim the week of April 7th through 13th, 2025 as National Public Health Week in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and call the people of Las Cruces to observe this week by helping our families, friends, neighbors, and coworkers recognize the contribution of public health in improving the health of people in Las Cruces and achieving health equity. As the theme says, it starts here. So, you want to come up and speak?
Hi, I'm Becky Pearson, and I am the department head for NMSU's Public Health Sciences Department. And I will say I have the real privilege and just honor of having gotten to choose to return to Las Cruces about 20 years before I was here before. I was reared as a public health-focused academic and advocate in NMSU's MPH program, Master of Public Health program. And I thought I would go straight into the field, and I did not. Someone told me about a big fellowship for a doctoral program, and it was in Arkansas. And I said, kind of two strikes. I don't want a doctorate, and I don't want to go to Arkansas. But I wasn't getting a job. And so 20 years ago, I applied for that thing, got it, went and got my doctorate, and then got my first job as a faculty member in Washington State, Central Washington University. I was there for about 15 years, and I had the opportunity to choose to explore whether I could indeed get hired here, come back here, as department head for this great place that again, kind of raised me. And so I applied, I got the job. I've been here since July 2023, and I have to tell you, I love more and more seeing how public health works here. I saw 20 years ago as a grad student how it worked. I see how it still works. I see that in my students, so I don't always get to work with students, but I've gotten to teach so far our undergrads and our doctoral students. We have a new doctoral program. And in talking with them about coming and sharing a few thoughts today, one of them said, I was at a training the other day, and someone said, New Mexico is known for doing public health well. So that was really exciting for me to be able to share. Just personally, again, I was reared into thinking about what public health means, what it can do for all of us, why we fight about it, why we can find the places where our values are shared, and we can understand why public health is so strong and why it needs to be part of who we are. For me, it's about the things that other people and other groups, paid and unpaid, do that we can't do for ourselves. I cannot make the skies dark. I cannot stop child abuse, right? I can't do these things on my own. I can't ensure that I always have access to healthy foods. I can't ensure that my water is clean and that my air is clean, right? But there are people working every single day around the country and around the world to do those things. And it happens in the background. And we have this little cliche that public health is invisible when it's working well. And so I think that invisibility is something that has changed over the last several years. It's become much more visible for many of us, right? With that visibility has come new opportunities to argue about it, to feel bad about different directions that public health is going in, to feel bad about the ways money and time is being spent, to raise our voices, right? But to also learn and feel proud of those things as well, and to recognize when they work for us. So I'll just stop there. I'm pleased and proud to be a part of public health, although I'm not a public health professional. I'm a public health thinker and teacher and administrator of a busy department of faculty members who all contribute every day to what public health in the future looks like here. So I'm really proud of that. So thank you.
You want to say anything?
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. Thank you for this proclamation of a very important role that we all play within the community. My name is Dawn Sanchez. I recently retired from the Department of Health after about 30 years there, and I just wanted to really commend our city too and all our partnerships over the many years for creating healthy environments for our families and folks that live in our communities, and actually been a tremendous partner during the pandemic. We did a lot of work together to make sure that our communities and our families were safe and we got through that situation. I just wanted to mention, public health is a partnership amongst all of us. We all have roles to play. We all have roles to play, as mentioned earlier, with public safety, with child abuse, from individuals to our policymakers on how we create those policies that guide and govern our communities and who we are. So I just wanted to commend the city for this important proclamation, and again, it's a role that we all play and work together to create healthier environments for our communities, for us all to thrive and survive and be successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'd like to do a recognition for the Neighborhood Leadership Academy graduates. So if I could have them come join me up here, and Katrina, Scott. Should have Ed read this. The voice of the Aggies. So in 2017, the City Council adopted a strategic plan to increase community government engagement, leading to the creation of the Neighborhood Leadership Academy. The Academy, available to Las Cruces residents, provides first-hand insight into city services and programs through presentations by city personnel and on-site visits to public facilities. Launched in the fall of 2017, the program ran until spring of 2020 when the pandemic paused in-person sessions. Due to strong interest, the program resumed in spring of 2024 and now in spring of 2025. The Academy mission is to equip residents with knowledge of city government, enabling them to become effective neighborhood advocates and community leaders. This free program helps residents understand how the city operates and how they can collaborate to enhance neighborhood quality of life. Weekly workshops and field trips covered various city operations, services, and ways to bring about positive change. Sessions include meeting with city leaders, parks and recreation activities, utilities, codes demonstrations, and touring the new transit facility. Participants also learned about the public works pavement management system and how our fire department has expanded services to ambulance and mental health calls. We congratulate the participants for completing 12 weeks of presentations, demonstrations, and active involvement. We hope the Academy provided valuable insights, and we look forward to your continued efforts to improve the Las Cruces community. Thank you very much. So earlier today, we had a luncheon that was provided to our graduates and also certificates and photos, and they shared a few thoughts and words. But what I'd like to say to them in front of all of you is thank you. Thank you for your time, your energy, your effort to get to know the city of Las Cruces better and the services and the organizations that provide what they do for this city. But the key thing out of all this, and we've heard about caring and we've heard about information and knowledge and all those things, but what really takes place is they got to meet individuals from this city, such as Katrina and Scott, and Ed, he's also a city employee. But you establish that relationship, and that's what it's about. For our community to grow, to thrive, it's building that relationship. One individual said, now I go, and when I'm in the parks, I look to see if that was one of the individuals that had participated in one of the presentations. So you get to know them firsthand, and it really means a lot when you get to know your city, you get to know the people, and we get to know you. So thank you. Thank you for participating in this program. And Katrina, did you want to say anything?
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Katrina Godinez. I'm with the Community Engagement Program, and I would just like to congratulate our graduates today, and we really appreciate you coming out every week and being enthusiastic about the programs that we have in our departments. And I would also like to thank our departments for coming out, presenting to this group of folks, and being enthusiastic about it as well. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Jobs of the Week. Sarah Rainey. Is Sarah here? Oh, here she comes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Oops. As stated, my name is Sarah Rainey. I'm the one-stop coordinator for the Southwest region of America's Job Center, New Mexico. Whoops, wrong direction there. For our Jobs of the Week, we have a building service representative for the city that starts at $17.40 an hour, and the posting closes in June. We also have a commercial plumber for the city. That posting starts at $21.20 an hour, and the posting also closes in June. We have an operations maintenance tech for Zia Natural Gas. That posting closes in May. A program manager senior for Manpower New Mexico Department of Agriculture. That one closes in May as well. We have a housing choice voucher specialist for Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority. That posting closes very soon at the end of this month. We also have a landscaper construction for MVT Holdings, and that posting closes at the end of this month as well. Just wanted to point out that we did have a very successful Heroes Hiring Heroes event. It was awesome to have it at the convention center. We had a lot of participation from employers, and we had, I believe it was 50 veterans come out. We had 4 people that were offered jobs on the spot. So just to get a word out for the next event that's coming up, those things do happen at our hiring events, so come see us at the next ones. Thank you.
Next is Pets of the Week, and Carol.
Good afternoon. I'm Carol Nilsson, Digital Content Specialist for the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley. As a reminder, anytime our dogs and cats of the week are promoted, they're available all week at no cost. And if you're looking at an animal in a foster home, please contact the center to arrange a meet and greet before coming to the center. Good news, I feel like we've had a lot of good news lately. So our cat of the week, Joey Marvel, was adopted. So he was a pretty sweet cat, no surprise there. And our dog of the week is Oreo, who is still available, and her adoption fee will be free all week. I'm an affectionate pup looking for my forever home. I'm a smart little bundle of joy who loves to run and play. Belly rubs, bum scratches, and all the love you can give are some of my favorite things. I'm highly treat motivated and working on improving my leash manners and social skills. With some patience, training, and consistency, I know I can become a wonderful companion. If you're looking for a fun-loving, affectionate dog to join your adventures, I might just be the perfect match. And then we also want to highlight some of our long-term residents, which we still have our top 4. Dora has been in our center now for 154 days, Alice 307 days, Luna 297 days, and Tony 290 days. And so they are discounted at just $25. They make excellent companions too, so we would love help getting them adopted. And for this weekend's events, we're gonna be at both PetSmart on Friday and the Farmers Market on Saturday. And during this month, we're having a sleepover at the end of the month. Pickup will be April 25th, and drop-off will be April 28th. So it's a great time to, if you can't be a long-term foster, these are great temporary foster opportunities to help our animals get out of the center for a break they need. And our on-site event will be Sunday, April 27th. And as always, for more information, visit our website or feel free to follow us on social media. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a conflict of interest. Does any member of the city council, city manager, or any member of the city staff have any known conflict of interest with any item on the agenda?
None.
Flores.
None.
Next, we'll have public participation. Allow up to 3 minutes, no pending litigation or items of non-consent. Again, speak directly into the microphone, state your name clearly, and above all, let's be respectful during your 3 minutes. Katrina will usher and help you. We'll start on the left-hand side on row 1 and then continue forward or upward.
My name is Lori English, and I live on the East Mesa, and at this point in time, I have no idea who in the heck my representative or counselor is, but for 24 and a half years, I have been complaining to the city council, to Councilor Gil Johnson, or Jones, Councilor Gil Sorg, Councilor Karan. Haven't had an opportunity to hit Councilor Flores yet. I think she's my new representative, but there is a street. And it's a short street, it's a little street, so this is a short story. It's named Stewart's Street. It's between Mesa Grande and Mesa in that little area in between the two where you have like midway, it runs north-south of Mesa Grande and Mesa. You can access it from Clifford, which is off of Mesa Grande, but that street is less than a quarter of a mile long and has probably, and in fact, I'll make you a bet right now that there's not a single one of you or person in this building that can drive down that street and not have to avoid or run over a pothole. This is 24 years I've been complaining about this street. Stewarts. It runs from Cortez to, I think, Midway, but it's north-south street. And actually, a whole section of the street is not even macadamed, blacktopped, or anything. It's not even paved. It's like a mud bog out there in the wintertime or when it rains. So I'm asking again, please, somebody, because I know Councilor Karan looked into it, and I think the streets department gave her the wrong information because she even courteously sent me pictures of what I was supposedly referring to, and it was not the street. So they gave you misinformation, and if the streets department And I've been told by 4 different counselors that we've been on the agenda to be repaired since 2003. It ain't happening. They're out there filling in the potholes. And if you go deep enough in one of those potholes, you'll probably find a 1968 VW Bug that went into the hole and never made it out. So please, somebody send somebody out there that can do something about the street and take care of us for it. It is a well-traveled, highly traveled street. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you, councilors and Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon to leadership and public. My name is Yoli Diaz. First, my thoughts and prayers are with all of our community on the Young Park massacre. I am here to provide my opinion. This is to inform you that there were 4 residents who could have been put in the pilot project for cancer treatment through Doña Ana County's contract with Memorial Medical Center, a contract specifically for 4 residents and up to $200,000. I provided notice of these 4 residents to leadership as follows in 2024, September the 25th, November 22nd, December 5th, and March 20th, 2025. Among my many concerns is that when Doña Ana County Board of County Commissioners receive a report of the success of this pilot project, I do not want anyone to think that these 4 residents were not in need because they were and are. I believe that this pilot project is unfortunately a failure to these residents who contacted me for help because they were not put in the pilot project. Was this pilot project planned, designed, and implemented effectively for success? Was there a uniform policy and procedure for provider-patient navigation for care coordination? Had these 4 residents been processed, qualified, and enrolled, this contract would have been fully executed. Barriers created these residents to experience additional financial hardship in addition to the physical anguish of a cancer diagnosis, a potentially fatal disease, a life or death situation, the second cause of death globally. The December 2024 resident was not originally assisted when MMC asked, is she a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident? 3 of these 4 residents have children. Please think of the children. Mayor Pro Tem, 3 of these residents reside in your district. I hope you get involved. I still want to know what is happening with MMC to ensure all Doña Ana County residents receive the care they need when they need it. It is past time to tell our community what is happening. Let's discuss many important subjects related to Memorial Medical Center, like the asset purchase agreement, MMC policies, MMC's discrimination towards the non-U.S. citizen that resides here, MMC's removal of cancer care from their policy, the county's indigent care resolution, the New Mexico Constitution, and how Doña Ana County has much room for improvement toward how this county's responsibility of indigent care has operated the last 10 years. Let's discuss current concerns like the Senate Budget Committee bipartisan staff report of January 25, Profits Over Patients, the harmful effects of private equity on the U.S. healthcare system, which includes discussion on LifePoint and Apollo Global Management referencing MMC, and the 2024 Shkreli Award by the Loan Institute ranking Memorial Medical Center the winner of the 5th most egregious example of profiteering and dysfunction in healthcare in the United States, reported January 7, 2025. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, and those watching online, I'm Lynn Moorer. It's more than 4 months since significant concerns were first presented to you by citizens regarding Las Cruces Utilities' implementation of the new lead and copper rule. Other than finally sending out a deficient letter in Spanish, it appears that nothing has been done to address these concerns. Instead, unfortunately, the concerns continue to grow as we discover more fact-based information. Las Cruces Utilities has now revamped the online inventory map. Scanning it makes clearer why the city doesn't want to talk about city-owned pipes. Pipes for numerous neighborhoods, many in the middle of the city, don't show up on the map at all. Pipes for more than half of the city's elementary schools likewise are not on the map. Keep in mind that health effects of lead on young children can be especially devastating. For lots of properties that do show piping, the information listed is obviously incorrect or missing. Here is a record for a property not far from here that says the customer-owned portion of the piping is non-lead plastic. Yet it says this service line was installed in 1952, 34 years before the lead ban, and it lists no basis whatsoever for classifying this pipe as non-lead. In many other cases, the inventory says the basis for designating the property as non-lead is that the piping was installed after the lead ban, which occurred in 1986, but the inventory indicates these installations actually occurred before the lead ban, 1961, 1973, 1979, for example. The city has taken this indisputably incorrect action regarding piping next to Las Cruces High School, Mayfield High School Complex, J. Paul Taylor Academy, St. Paul's United Methodist Church, which hosts a daycare in addition to all its other activities, Lions Park, Young Park, Apodaca Park, Carden Park, Raymond M. Paz Sports Complex, the Community of Hope, and numerous residences and businesses. Look at any of these named places on the inventory map, and you'll see that it says the installation occurred before 1986, yet the city classifies this as non-lead. This signifies it doesn't need replacement. It seems doubtful that this is just a massive record-keeping problem. It suggests incompetence threaded throughout all the so-called investigations Las Cruces Utilities says it's conducting. Not only is just checking the meter box inadequate, there's no evidence in the 1,000 records I've reviewed online that Las Cruces Utilities is doing any verification whatsoever of the materials the service lines are made of. You should know that EPA requires at least 2 methods of verification for every pipe. If any piping were to be verified, the question is what method the city would use. The city's initial method for determining the nature of the pipe is inadequate, as delineated at a previous meeting. The judgment of the people who are making the decisions must be examined by one or more independent engineers, since there's so much evidence that they are not doing a competent job so far in so many areas. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Mayor, City Councilors, I'm Liz Rodriguez Johnson. For more than 4 months, the local citizens have been trying to call your attention to the deficiencies in the city's implementation of the new lead and copper rule. The only identifiable thing accomplished after prolonged refusal was a letter in Spanish that was finally sent out, but it was loaded with web links to sites that are not in Spanish. Where's the map showing all the city-owned piping? That's an issue that was raised 4 months ago, too. I'm worried about 65% of property owners who may not have received a notification letter because the city inventory doesn't even show their property has service lines. The huge gaps in the inventory map suggest, among other things, that the inventory the city submitted to EPA in October 24 was non-compliant with the new rule. Plus, the map designations are highly misleading, if not wholly inaccurate. A green dot for a property is supposed to signify non-lead material class. However, when you actually look at many of these green dotted properties, you discover that the record designates only the city-owned portion of the piping as non-lead. And this is based only on installation date after the lead ban in 1996, and is not based on actual field verification. The customer-owned portion of the line shows unknown, apparently because it was installed before the lead ban. So the green dot designation of non-lead is not really accurate. At most, only the city-owned part of the line might be non-lead, but there's no proof that the customer-owned part of the line is not lead. This is another piece of the troubling picture regarding Las Cruces Utilities' substandard performance on this issue. Citizens are potentially being hurt when they are asked to rely upon inaccurate and/or misleading information from the city regarding piping. Citizens are being required to bear a considerable expense to replace lead piping, while the city either doesn't know the true situation regarding whether piping is lead or doesn't want to tell us. Lead is a dangerous pollutant with serious health ramifications. The city needs to find at least one experienced manager/engineer who can take a strategic look at this problem and come up with a managerial approach that deals with it comprehensively, not through patchwork. You should be throwing your very best at this, not just attempting to look like you're trying to comply with the new rule. The City Council has been made fully aware that the city is not dealing with this issue properly. And even if the City Council did try to claim ignorance, everyone knows ignorance is not a valid legal defense. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and Chief of Police. A holistic approach to crime. Discipline, respect, and fear is a holistic approach to crime. Growing up as a kid in my neighborhood, every single child knew that we had to be home when the street lights turned on. If not, we had mothers and fathers from every porch and window screaming for us to get our asses home, or they were going to call our parents. We all had discipline, respect, and fear. That is what this generation needs. Deming has a curfew, and I believe that we need to start there and hold kids and parents accountable. 4 days before the Young Park incident, a member on City Council was screaming that our police need more oversight. Police in this town are held to a higher standard and a higher accountability more than anybody in this room will ever be held to. The only people that need more oversight are the people sitting on City Council demanding that our police need more oversight. Our police department needs to be given the tools they so desperately need to effectively make this city safer for all and to be able to hold juveniles and parents accountable for their actions. That is how we jail ourselves out of crime. Thank you.
Tim, sir, I don't think you stated your name, just so we have it for the record. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that, Tim Jenkins.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. My name is Giovanni Sebastian Hernandez. I'm a resident of Las Cruces, and I'd like to say three things. Love, care, and respect are greater values than fear and authoritarianism. Our community has suffered a lot and will continue to suffer as wounds heal, and irreplaceable people continue to be missed. The answer to youth violence is not punishment. It's not authoritarianism. It's not being scared. It sure isn't a curfew. It's a holistic approach, right? It involves many different things. It starts at home, extends into the community, and is reflected here in our City Council. So I'd just like to say that, speaking loudly doesn't mean you're always right. Speaking with compassion, with care and understanding is more important than just being an angry person all the time. So as our community heals and continues to heal, I hope we all keep that in mind. Much love and respect to all of you. Thank you very much.
Hello, Mayor and City Councilors. My name is Saray Guerrero. I live in District 1, and I grew up here my whole life. And it's really tragic to see what happened at Young Park last month. And as a youth that grew up here, as a youth who had siblings who were not like me, for lack of a better word. It wasn't because they wanted to be that way. It wasn't because, they were bad. It was because there was no resources available to them. My family and I struggled in poverty through child abuse, through domestic violence. And I think the last thing that we needed at any given moment was someone being arrested, someone being tough on us just for the fact that we were alive. And that's just to say that I am not the only child in Las Cruces that is dealing with that. We had some folks up here come up and talk about child abuse. And that is, if anything, a huge catalyst for change sometimes, usually always for the worst. My brother was an example of that. And although my brother had that opportunity to change, a lot of young folks don't. A lot of people don't have the safety nets, the community resources to reach out. And a lot of them are scared, and rightfully so. And I think to really get to the root of this issue, we must look at everyone with compassion and with kindness and with love that we might not even give ourselves. And I hope that the city works to, do more for our youth. I grew up here and I never saw anything until I reached the age of 21, which is really great. It's nice that this is happening now in our town, but we can do more. We can do so much more to have these resources available to youth, give them activities, give them things to do. Like the whole thing where people go and look at the different departments that the city has, right? Extend that to the youth, outside of government classes or whatever you want. Have these kids engage with the city. And maybe these things can change for the benefit of the entire community, for the youth, for the parents, for the everyone. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name is Lucas Herndon. I'm a resident of District 2. I'm a person who spent my whole life here, grew up as a child here, went to high school here, went to college here, bought a house here, and have raised my daughter here. My daughter was a classmate of one of the young men who was killed at the park, and one of my neighbors, it was his nephew. And so, like almost everybody in this town, this tragedy has affected my family in personal ways. It's been hard to have a conversation with my 16-year-old daughter about gun violence that has affected us in our town. We're a family that has firearms. She has been shooting with me since she was 4. And one of the conversations we've always had is how to make guns safe. And the issue is that you can make guns safe, but you can't make people safe. And one of the things that we've talked about is that what makes us unsafe is when there are not resources available to make us feel safe. And when I was growing up, we at least had a bowling alley, we at least had a putt-putt, we at least had cheap seat theaters. Our kids don't have even those things. And I do want to address something that was said about fear and anger. The chief of police said the day of the shooting, "This horrendous, senseless act is a stark reminder of the blatant disregard people in New Mexico have for the rule of law and order." And went on to say that as angry as he was right now, he wasn't going to make the conference political. That is a political statement. That is a call out of every New Mexican. He said it. You could roll the tape back. Your chief of police says that every New Mexican has a disregard for the rule of law and order. I don't know the people in this community have come up here and talked about fear a lot. And that fear is often directed at the most marginalized members of this community. When the guy who has the gun in the room right now says he's angry and that he thinks everybody hates him, that's what you should be scared of. That's what everybody in here should be afraid of.
Hello. Good afternoon, Council and Mayor. My name is Abigail Saluk-Sagan, and I am and have been a Las Cruces constituent for over 17 years. I was raised around the Parks and Rec area, District 1. Every summer I would be at Mershite, where they provided free food for the kids, get us moving around. There would be stuff happening at Youngs Park. Youngs Park was mostly where I was at. There were so many youth-engaged events. These funded youth organizations are the reason I love the city so much. And as I grew older, I knew I wanted to stay here in Cruces and continue to work with and support the youth as much as possible. After this recent shooting at Youngs Park, which I want to take this time and give my condolences to the families, friends, and the youth who have been impacted by the shooting, it is very telling that our youth is very underrepresented in the community. I also want to take this time to comment on Jeremy Story's statement, which he said, this horrendous, senseless act is a stark reminder of the blatant disregard the people of New Mexico have for the rule of law and order. This statement is not only a blatant disregard to the families, friends, and youth who are still grieving from this, but it is also a blatant disregard to the real systemic issues that our most underrepresented community faces. Listen to our youth more, engage with them, act upon those issues and concerns they have. Jeremy, your quick to blame on the people in the community I so deeply care about is dangerous and reckless. It's defeatist and nihilistic to spew these to the public. I want to take the rest of my time to thank our city councils and community who provided resources for the community in these times, such as the Victims Resource Center. Inform me if that's still happening at the Convention Center. Thank you to NM Cafe for opening up spaces for the community, especially for the youth to grieve. Let's engage with the youth more, prioritize youth behavioral services. As James Baldwin said, the children are always ours, every single one of them. And as always, Viva Palestina and Viva los Niños. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we've got a problem here in the crowd. Everybody's clicking their fingers. We can't hear what's being said. It's very disruptive.
Okay, if you're clicking your fingers, please, if you could be respectful to everyone else so that they can hear what's being said.
Hello, City Council, Mayor, and members of the Las Cruces community. My name is Liz Bennett. As we come together to do better for our community, I have a few follow-up questions for Chief Story. First, I would like an update on the storage locker idea that you proposed back when you were advocating for taking shopping carts away from people living on the street. Is that plan still moving forward? My concern is that when we push for carceral policies that promote fines and jail time, your rhetoric, Chief Story, is that this punishment will lead to services and support. But more often than not, the second half of that equation is left neglected because it requires ongoing, consistent investment, action, care, and concern, and doesn't lead to the same adrenaline-spiked political payoff as being tough on crime. During your January town hall, Chief Story, you mentioned that you are unsure as to why there are so few supportive services for youth and adults struggling with mental illness and violent behavior. I'd like to recommend a documentary to you called The Shakeup. It details how in 2013, the Martinez administration destroyed the community-based behavioral health care system through a rigged audit process, resulting in the closure of 15 mental health providers, all of which were later found to be clear of any wrongdoing. The providers were replaced by 5 Arizona companies hired on no-bid emergency contracts, all of whom have since bailed. New Mexico has been trying to rebuild supportive services ever since, and despite your clear and publicly stated opinion that the blatant disregard of the people of New Mexico, this legislative session did see the approval of a $62 million investment in behavioral health services throughout the state. I'd like to encourage you, Chief Story, this council, Mayor Enriquez, and the community to commit to the long-term work of cultivating a community that our young people want to be part of by taking advantage of the opportunity that these funds may offer. And speaking of the blatant disregard for the rule of law and order, in the January town hall, Chief Story, you stated that the LCPD would not interfere with ICE's ability to do their job. And I'd like to know if that statement still stands as we see ICE abducting legal residents off the street and detaining and deporting them with no due process, often as punishment for critical speech. So finally, Chief Story, Council, Mayor, my question is, will you commit to restoring community support, recognizing the humanity of all Las Cruces residents, and expanding our strategy beyond detention? Thank you.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. My name is Sylvia Yancey, and I live in District 2. I didn't fully prepare a statement today and just kind of wrote this up today. But last month's shooting hit our community very hard, and it's not something that we will fully recover from anytime soon. The rise of gun violence and mass shootings in this country is apparent, and I want to see our community do its best to prevent something like this from happening in the future again. I want to address Jeremy's story specifically. You said after the mass shooting last month, this horrendous, senseless act is a stark reminder of the blatant disregard the people of New Mexico have for the rule of law and order. It's also a reminder of the utter lack of fear and accountability in New Mexico. I don't know if you lack media training or what, but I and many others were incredibly offended and disgusted by your statement. I think my friends that spoke here today said better words on why this is blatantly not true and why we need love and support instead of fear in our community. To put the blame on our lack of respect for authority on this tragedy is sickening, as well as disrespectful to any citizen that have valid concerns and criticisms for LCPD and other law officers in the state of New Mexico. Frankly, I'm also very concerned that every time I come to a city hall meeting that you, Jeremy Story, are on your phone half the time. This shows that you are not truly listening to any concerns brought up during public comment. Please do better and listen to the citizens that you and LCPD are allegedly supposed to serve and protect. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Gwen Stacy, and I am a resident of Las Cruces. And I would also like to speak about the tragedy that happened in Las Cruces and about the response that Jeremy Story has had to it, and about his comments not only about New Mexicans' blatant disregard for law and order, but also his comments regarding House bill proposals, talking about how it is, but also by claiming that he didn't want to politicize a tragedy. And I would just like to point out that both those statements inherently have political aspects to them. And I would actually appreciate if there weren't so many politicizations, because recommending a House bill from the New Mexico legislature as a political body is inherently politicizing an event. The other part of it is that anyone who knows anything about preventing tragedies, suggesting a bill that increases sentencing duration is something that only happens after a tragedy has already occurred. It doesn't make any sense to say that those prevent tragedies. And even on that, the idea that instilling fear into youth is going to stop them from committing heinous acts is also just not true. Any sociological look at what does and does not prevent these things shows clear indications that the prevention of childhood poverty is the largest preventative measure for acts of violence and aggression in youth and teenagers. And I can also just say from my own personal experience that I used to be an angry kid. And when you're an angry kid, you don't really care. You need someone to reach out to you before you do something stupid or irresponsible. Because the angry kids, they don't care about themselves, they don't care about anyone else, and that's why they do it. And attempting to instill fear on someone who has a disregard for their own life doesn't prevent anything. Thank you.
For the record, my name is Michael Harris. Mayor, Council, thanks for your time today. I've been a resident of Las Cruces for a very long time, well over 30 years. And obviously the main topic of this is crime prevention and the recent tragedy. And the question that is asked, everyone's asking, is what are you going to do about it? What's the City Council going to do about it? And the assumed answer in a lot of circles is make the police do something about it. Put all the effort onto Chief Story and his department, and that's the answer, and somehow magically that'll fix things. Frankly, this is a very lazy take. It's easy to say that, and it's easy to say give more work to the cops. They get roughly, so the question was asked, I guess, about why there aren't more preventative programs and youth programs. The police department gets roughly 1/3 of the city budget, as you're well aware, of the non-capital budget at least. So what are they doing with all that money? They're doing important work, and they do have a job. They have a very specific job of solving crimes. That job is specifically not preventing crimes. They show up after crimes have been committed and help solve them and help bring justice to the people who committed them and hopefully justice for the victims. So to that end, there are some things that I think the City Council can do that are well within your purview, mandate and legal powers that contribute to just safety and health of the community in general, and downstream, reduce crime. I think this has also been brought up, ensuring healthcare access for all citizens. There's a very passionate statement about Memorial Medical Center earlier today. Very well taken. We have a big problem in the country and the community with access to healthcare. If you're healthcare poor, you're living in poverty. The city has things that they can do. They have some direct power over Memorial Medical Center. They have a lobbyist in Santa Fe who they hire and could advocate for some state programs like Medicaid buy-in. Can ensure that everyone in the community is safely housed. I think that goes without saying. If you're secure in your housing, you're a lot less likely to commit petty crimes so that you can spend the night in jail. And then also, there's some discussion on this too, but shift the focus of public works to prioritize safety of the community. There's various things the public works can do to ensure that citizens are safer just overall. We can design roads better for safety, reduce road rage and such. We can design lighting. That was a very interesting thing from earlier today. Design lighting to prevent crime and put it where it is. We can design for safety, but that direction has to come from the top. And that's all I got time for, so thanks for your time.
Mayor, Council, Juan Garcia. On March 21st, my 17-year-old son came home with shadows in his eyes. His voice described the horror that had unfolded at Young Park, the crack of gunfire, and the desperate scramble for safety. While he and his girlfriend found refuge in his car, others weren't granted such mercy. She witnessed a stranger's final moments, his blood seeping into the grass. 3 souls were stolen that night, 15 more forever marked by bullets and trauma. My son and his girlfriend survived, but something in them died at Young Park. Now the place where children once played will be forever known as the Las Cruces Young Park Massacre Site. Yes, it was a massacre. Joining the Bowley Alley Massacre Site. They are a reminder of how quickly violence can shatter our illusions of safety. KOB, and I quote, as for the juveniles, they have been suspects or charged in aggravated burglaries, vandalism, sexual assault, robbery, attempts at selling guns, shoplifting, drug possession, suspected in batteries, domestic violence, and aggravated assault. One was charged with smuggling illegal immigrants in Texas. And I continue with my quotes. Investigators said the 15-year-old, quote, walked down one of the victims, shooting him at the ground like a standing executioner. Yes, like a standing executioner. So why were these kids not stopped while on the criminal career path? Or as District Attorney Bregman asked of the legislature, and I quote, I want you to hold these young people accountable when they violate the law, and start when they first violate the law, when they steal their first car. Make sure they understand there's a consequence to that behavior. They're going to be accountable so that down the road, we don't have situations where the first time they're being held accountable is when they're being prosecuted for murder. Does this sound familiar? Let me continue with my quote. Rivas' defense attorney stated and warned against using the incident to push for harsher juvenile sentencing laws. Really believe that? Why did the laws remain unchanged? The progressives watched the juvenile crime crisis unfold like a reality show, entertaining from a distance. But heaven forbid they actually do something about it. They have plenty to blame. Guns, skin color, poverty, but dance around deterrence and consequences. Why lock up criminals when you can process them and send them back to terrorize the community? Meanwhile, small businesses and citizens are being picked clean like carcasses in the desert, but they at least, our lawmakers, can sleep soundly knowing they're not being too harsh on criminals. And we support LCPD and Chief Story. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I want to first start by saying and acknowledging and thanking all the first responders and victim advocates who responded to the mass shooting at Youngs Park. Thank you. My name is Angelica Calderon. I am the Executive Director of La Piñon. Our mission is to empower survivors of sexual assault and child abuse with a community of support and healing through comprehensive services, advocacy, and prevention education. We believe that by offering unconditional support, information, and a safe environment for change, the person who has been sexually assaulted can take the steps to regain control of their life and make the transition from victim to survivor. We strive to seamlessly provide high-quality intervention services to children and their families to reduce trauma and minimize long-term effects of all forms of child maltreatment, abuse, and neglect. La Piñon, on average, provides wraparound services to over 1,000 survivors a year. We are the second largest sexual assault service provider in the state. Our service area covers Doña Ana County, Luna County, Sierra County, and Hidalgo County, with satellite offices in Deming and Truth or Consequences. Why are our services imperative in our community? A recent victim data survey conducted by the Catherine Cutler Institute for Health and Social Policy, according to that policy, a total of 54 of New Mexicans reported being sexually assaulted within their lifetime. 54%. Let's sit on that number just a little bit. Of those 54%, 40% of respondents reported being sexually assaulted before they were 12 years old. When our services are available to all community members, it provides the hope the victims and survivors need to start their healing journey. La Piñon is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to respond with crisis intervention, whether the assault or abuse occurred 5 minutes ago, 5 days ago, 5 or 50 years ago. Our victim advocates are there to provide compassionate care and advocacy. Our team connects all of our clients with imperative services at no cost. The City of Las Cruces' support for many years has played a role in that, ensuring services are available to victims and survivors. The continued grant funding that has been awarded to La Piñon has provided vital medical care for victims of sexual assault and child abuse. I want to thank the entire council for your support. I would also like to invite you all to meet with me and discuss further how the City of Las Cruces can continue supporting victims and survivors. Thank you to Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo for visiting our facility and having conversations with myself and my staff. Thank you for believing survivors. We all play a role in preventing violence and helping victims on their healing journey. I will leave my card and our information for your review. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for your time. My name is Jorge Aguirre. I'm a local citizen, and I would like to share a couple of thoughts. The first one is in support of Realize Las Cruces. There was a lady that was evicted at the end of December, and there was a huge community uproar. Even a legislator said that it was the landlord's fault because they should leave money on the table instead of evicting somebody. And I think the real problem is supply and demand. We don't have enough houses. It's unreasonable to ask landlords to leave money on the table. We just need to produce the housing that we need to not have people take advantage of tenants. Thank you for voting for it, though. The zoning status quo protected the comfort and property values of a few at the cost of increased inequality, homelessness for too many, and growing poverty and crime for most. Without houses, people end up on the street. So NIMBYism causes homelessness. So thank you again. Second thought is about the shooting. I don't agree that the police presence alone would have prevented violence. Maybe. But it's likely also that police presence would have made it worse. A great taxpayer's cost. It's been so before. The solutions of the past cannot solve the problems of the present. Sometimes they are the cause of them. And the police system is an old institution that was not built with the tools to deal with the multi-layered problems like the ones our community is experiencing. No se le pueden pedir peras al olmo. On the other hand, it's not the first time Young Park and people gather in this place to socialize and show off their cars, and the situation gets out of control. There was this accident where they were doing car stunts, and it was really tragic too. So I don't know what the integral solution would entail, but perhaps some of it would be the city taking the leadership in helping organize these gatherings in a organized way and channel this demand for spaces to help them gather and show off their cars to each other and socialize without the risk of them doing it by themselves with guns and car stunts. Lastly, the intentional slowdown of the American economy by the US president has decimated the stock market today. They're calling it Trump Monday, Orange Monday, Black Monday. And it will cause job loss across the country and poverty for the near future, including our city. Many Americans may lose their homes, and we may see a rise in the number of people needing help here. Big companies will surely get bailed out, but we, the working people, are probably not going to get help from FEMA or any federal agency or anybody, just each other. So I just tell you all of this because I hope that you realize that when the stuff hits the fan pretty soon, our community will need your help and your leadership to help them navigate these dark times. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jim Hurst. A few weeks ago, there was a shooting at a Sonic Burger. There was only one death, so it didn't get the coverage that 3 deaths and 16 other casualties get. But that person happened to be known to me, and I consider him family. He's 20 years old. He was a troubled youth, and his friend was a troubled youth, and they got in an argument, and there was a gun, and there was a gun death. There are 390 million guns in America, 1.25 guns for every American. That's why we have the violence we have. No other country has anywhere near the gun violence we have. Yes, indeed, it is the guns. We're not going to change these realities, these events, without dealing with guns. It's just that simple. We've tried to dance around it for 50 years. There's no way around it. The only way is through it. I suggest we have liability insurance for gun owners that will deter the amount of guns and the amount of irresponsible gun ownership. Thank you very much.
Hello, City Council. My name is Jay Choate. I reside in District 5, and I've been here for over a decade. I think there's a lot of thoughts I have here. First of all, I'm studying for my master's in political science and in public administration at NMSU currently. And having studied public admin, I guess that's a statement for the police chief, I think it's ill-advised to generally say that you know better than the public, because you're always going to get backlash for that. And situations are complicated and nuanced, so I don't think it's best to speak as if you know better than everybody. As far as the problems themselves, I don't think it can be solved through punitive measures. I don't think we can keep trying the same thing we've been doing for decades and decades, just smacking our face into the brick wall, hoping we get a different result. Trust me, it'll be different this time. It's not going to be. We have seen what happens when we try this approach. I think we need to look at it as a rehabilitative community measure. We need to be ensuring that everyone has access to affordable housing. We need to ensure they have access to fair-paying jobs. They need to have access to affordable food, necessities, clothing. They need to have access to resources in the community, places where they can gather. I know since COVID, a lot of places closed down at 10 now. So all these kids, they don't have a place to go and socialize, and let alone recreational facilities that we already have. We have the park, we have the parks, we have hiking trails, but maybe not everyone's interested in that kind of stuff. We're all forced to buy a car pretty much because of our car-centric society and infrastructure, so it makes sense to buy a cool car and want to show it off to your friends. But we need to make it so they have organized places to hang out, more things to do, and that requires engaging them, asking what they want in the community, and working with them to achieve that. And I think not representing them and leaving them out of the loop just makes this problem worse over time. Just telling them they need to be in home before the lights go out. They're kids. They're going to go on and do what they want. And you can yell at them as much as you want, but I grew up as a teenager, and I feel like we all grew up as teenagers at one point. Most of us were rebellious, rambunctious sometimes. Maybe it's not good to do that, but ultimately, if they're going to do it, we want to work with them and make it so it's safer and make it so they have access to resources and people that actually care about them, as opposed to just speaking down to them, assuming they're going to listen. So I think we just need to approach things differently. I'm glad that you all did pass Realize Las Cruces. It's not perfect, but no policy ever is, of course. And it will really help to build out the character better in the city, I think. Building more places closer to our homes where we can actually socialize, where we can get food, clothing, stuff like that. That's how you build community, not by telling them how they need to live, by orchestrating their lives and telling them you need to be home by this time, you need to do these things here, here, and here at this time, this time, this time. It's not how society works. We're humans. We're not machines. We can't just be put into boxes. So that's everything I had to say. So thank you, Council.
Hello, Mayor Enriquez, City Council. My name is Fred Miller, and I'm going to go on a quieter note here. I'm asking for increased support for our public libraries. About a month ago, it came to my attention that the library next door does not have a full-time collections development librarian. I've since then talked to 2 or 3 other librarians. They all have diverse ideas about exactly why they need a full-time collections development librarian, but the notion that there are so many different ideas about why they need it just adds to the notion that they do need it. It's my understanding the city manager will be getting some kind of report from the Quality of Life Department, and that will be among the requests for museums and libraries, is specifically a request to implement a position for a full-time collections development library for Brannigan Memorial Library. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council persons. My name is David Steele. I live on the East Mesa and and City Council, and Flores is my counselor, and thank you for your contributions to our area and to our city. I'm here today to commend those who have been involved for many years now in negotiating an improvement in our animal welfare ordinances. And I know that that is a vote that's to be taken today. I strongly support that, and I hope that the City Council will move forward in improving.
Sir, since that's one of the items on the agenda, you can't speak to it at this time. If you're here when it comes up, you can have some time there. We'll open it up for
I'm sorry,
comments
I
at that time.
apologize.
Okay, thank you. Next is the acceptance for agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
This is on a motion to approve the agenda as accepted. Councillor Curran? I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Councillor McClure?
Yes.
Councillor Matisse?
Yes.
Councillor Graham?
Yes.
Councillor Curran?
Still yes.
Councillor Flores?
Yes.
Councillor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item 7.1. That's a public hearing. So the public hearing is now open. It's 2:39 p.m. Is there anyone here for or against the issuance of this liquor license? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed at 2:40.
Move to approve.
Second, Graham.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Adam Ochoa, Community Development for the record. Before you, we have a proposed liquor license for the Corazon de Oro LLC, which is located at 1300 El Paseo Road, Suite 302. The application is for a Restaurant A type liquor license with beer and wine only, with on-premise consumption only. The Alcoholic Beverage Control did go ahead and provide preliminary approval to the city on February 7th of this year. Staff didn't need to reach out to request for an extension in order to meet all the advertising requirements and notification requirements. That extension was approved by the state. Majority of reviewing staff saw no issues with the application. There was only the one issue that the proposed liquor license is located within 300 feet of a religious institution directly across the street, but council does have the authority to waive that distance requirement. Shown here, roughly right around here is where the restaurant is, the Corazon de Oro, the religious institution directly north here, north side of Idaho, near the intersection of El Paso and Idaho, just to give you an idea where it is that we're talking about. So your options, council, is 1 to vote yes and approve the proposed liquor license, or 2 to vote and deny. The alcoholic beverage control will be notified of the vote and will continue the application process after your vote. That is the conclusion of my presentation, and I stand for questions.
Thank you, Adam. Anyone? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Adam. I don't have any questions. I just really wanted to thank the owners of this establishment and the owners of other locally owned establishments in this area. This is, as we know, part of the MRA, and just want to thank them for their continued investment in this part of town. And I know that maybe from our end it feels a little bit slow, but we're really committed to El Paseo and this area through the MRA, and hope that we can deliver right back. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Somebody snapping? Yeah, no, I also want to say thank you to the owners for stepping up. I know that they had already an establishment there with a liquor license, but since the name change, this is has to go through the process again, but it's been something that's already been there. So thank them for pursuing and keep doing what you're doing. Okay, with that.
This is on a motion to approve resolution number 25-112. Counselor McClure.
Yes.
Counselor Matisse.
Yes.
Counselor Graham.
Yes.
Counselor Curran.
Yes.
Counselor Flores.
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is item 7.2, resolution 25-113, a resolution authorizing an existing contract purchase agreement for Vida core and network hardware upgrades.
Good afternoon, Mayor, councilors. Donnie Procise, Purchasing Supervisor for the record.
Hold up, Donnie. Move to approve, Graham. Second, Corin. Got you.
Okay, Donnie.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Always trying to jump the gun. Once again, Donnie Procise, Purchasing Supervisor for the record. I just wanted to introduce Alicia Zamora Morales. She's a recent addition to the purchasing team, and this will be her first presentation to council.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, City staff. My name is Alicia Zamora Morales, and I'm Buyer 1 with the Purchasing Program. And before you today is a resolution to authorize an award of an existing contract purchase agreement. The City of Las Cruces utilizes L3 Harris radio program software, which is a unified platform designed to manage and deliver mission-critical voice, data, and application communications across public safety and utility networks. This software will replace our current outdated software. The P25 core or master site will manage critical functions, direct voice and data communications, encryption and authentications, and network management. The Las Cruces Municipal Code authorizes the city to utilize contracts from other entities. This allows for effective and cost-efficient procurement of goods and services to meet the city's operational needs. License and support provided by Daily Wells Communication, Inc. are available through Houston Galveston Area Council Contract Number RA05-21, which is valid through July 31st, 2025. The Information Technology Department is requesting authorization to contract with Daily and Wells Communications in the amount not to exceed $329,204.04, subject to budget appropriations. Before you are your options, and I stand for questions.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Alicia, or Ms. Zamora Morales. I guess I just want to know what the length of the contract was. Is it an extension or renewal of what we already have? Is there anything new?
No, this will be a new contract that will end July 31st, 2025. It's the existing contract with Houston Galveston. And then the end user, it's to buy the software, so the end user would be able to just purchase the services, but we wouldn't have to contract with them further than the installation of the contract, of the services.
The services, but, so it's just a 3-month contract?
It started before, it was September.
Oh, it's a retroactive contract? Never heard of that.
Donnie Procise, Purchasing Supervisor for the record. So this is a contract that was bid out by the Houston Galveston Area Council. It's a purchasing cooperative. So the contract is already in place. We are just accessing that contract for the purchase of the licenses and the installation. So the city didn't do the procurement. We're just accessing the contract with the vendor that's available to us.
I see, I see. Thank you, Donnie, and thank you, Alicia. You're welcome. Sorry. Thank you, Mayor.
Seeing none other. Welcome back, Christine.
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-113. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. And thank you, Alicia. Good job and welcome to the city.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Next is item 7.3, resolution number 25-114. Resolution authorizing the City of Las Cruces to accept grant awards for various city departments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor, councilors, city staff, community members. My name is Gabriela Prats. I'm the grant manager in the Financial Services Department. Excuse me. Before you is a resolution to accept several grants for the city. The first is a grant from the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority in the amount of $1.5 million for the Amador Crossing Housing Complex. And this, of course, is awarded to the City Manager's Office, Housing and Neighborhood Services Department. This additional funding works alongside all the other sources of funding that have been awarded for this particular project. The second grant was awarded by the New Mexico Department of Transportation to the Mesilla Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO. The amount of the award is $70,000, and the match is $14,000. The purpose is to assist the MPO's traffic count program by funding data collection, analysis, and processing. This is the third pot of funding for MPO for fiscal year 25. The next grant is for the police department, funded by the New Mexico Department of Public Safety in the amount of $37,350. It is slated to fund the purchase and installation of ballistic windshields on approximately 10 police vehicles. Each windshield replacement, including installation, runs about $3,500. And the police department is using this in combination with other grants that they've been awarded to upgrade as many first responder vehicles as possible. And it is the plan of the police department and grants to assist them in finding more funds for these particular projects that include, that improve safety for first responders. The next grant is also for the police department through the New Mexico Department of Transportation in the amount of $62,315. This funds the NDWI, Buckle Up, and STEP projects. All of these are aimed at increasing the safety of motorists and pedestrians. They provide funding to set up items projects such as checkpoints, additional units in the surrounding the city. Buckle Up is to specifically look for folks who aren't wearing their seatbelt, because we all know seatbelts save lives. The STEP program is aimed at the safety of pedestrians, and these particularly aim at busy intersections or where there have been previous accidents involving pedestrians. The next grant is through the New Mexico High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Program, or HIDA. It's to Police Department Metro. This particular one is actually two modifications, modifications 2 and 3, which together increase the budget by $71,650, which then increases our total grant from HIDA to $783,326. This funds operations of the HIDA program in Las Cruces and the surrounding area to reduce drug trafficking and related violence. The next grant is made by the New Mexico Tourism Department to CMO, our City Manager's Office, Visit Las Cruces. It is a $10,000 sponsorship for the 2026 Mesilla Valley Balloon Rally. With these funds, Visit Las Cruces will be able to promote the event as well as the New Mexico True brand. And the last grant is to the Parks and Recreation Department from the New Mexico Energy, Mineral, and Natural Resources Department in the amount of $249,668.05 with an equal match. This project, or rather this program, requires a dollar-to-dollar match. And this particular one is to fund the ongoing work to complete a major renovation of the Pioneer Women's Park. Here are your council options, and I stand for questions.
Do you have any questions? Councilor Flores.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much. What exactly, do you know any details about the Pioneer Women's Park?
I do have a little bit, but I think better equipped to answer detailed questions on the project is Steve Bingham, the Parks and Rec Director. So
Thank you.
Councilor Flores, Mayor, Steve Bingham, Parks and Recreation Director. The grant is to continue the renovation of Pioneer Park with lighting and with the sidewalk replacement and improvements around the park.
What about the structure that's there? Is there going to be any renovation, or it's not included?
The gazebo? I think David Cedillo is probably the best to give a response on that, as his department's managing that.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. David Cedillo, Public Works Director, for the record. Mayor, Councilor Flores, to answer your question, the gazebo is its own project itself. These funds that are being allocated are actually going to be going to the improvements of the master plan there at Parks. So that will include the sidewalks, if you will. If you remember the park itself, there's a central point where the gazebo is, and then from each corner you have sidewalks coming into the center. Those will be upgraded, irrigation, and there'll also be some pergola installations as part of that plan.
The reason I ask is because I know the League of Women Voters has been wanting the gazebo to be restored, and also the women's building there. And I haven't been up with that organization for a while. I'm still a member, but has there been any movement in that, or have you received any calls from the League of Women Voters regarding the gazebo? I mean, they'll be very happy to know that there's all this other stuff going on.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, like I mentioned, the gazebo is on its own project right now.
Yeah.
We have had some questions regarding it. Right now, the gazebo has been rebuilt. We're waiting on the decorative panels to come in to be installed, along with some lighting around the area on the center.
So there is something going on.
Yes, there are improvements going on at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cedillo, and thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Matisse.
Yeah, I don't know who could answer this. There's a building there with the women. Would that be Parks and Rec?
Definitely not me. I'm not aware of any.
It's
improvements there.
Ms. Jurado. I believe Ms. Jurado got contacted city manager.
Well, go ahead, Sonia Delgado. She has her light on, if you
Sonia?
want to respond to that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Can you
Members
tell-
of council, Sonia Delgado, Assistant City Manager. Councilor Matisse, I just met with him last week, and we're talking to him about the WIA building that's right across the street. I am working with facilities. We did do some improvements on the roof. We do have a few extra funds that are going to help with that facility as well. We've already done a complete assessment, and now we're just prioritizing what we can do with the funds that we receive.
Thank you. That's great.
Seeing none other, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-114. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.4, resolution number 25-115, a resolution amending the FY 2025-2030 capital improvements program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. My name is Cynthia Lamillo, CIP Manager with Planning and Implementation, and today I'm here to present a few CIP amendments. Today, we have 4 specific CIP amendments. One of them is because recently we accepted a grant. We have another one to add additional funds to the project, and we have 2 amendments so we can reflect the available funds for each of those 2 projects. The first amendment is to reflect the recently grant accepted for La Casa. On March 17, City Council approved this grant, and we would like to update the CIP document so it can reflect the newly funds of $301,000. The second amendment is to increase the funds for this specific project, which is East Mesa Public Recreational Complex, and we are adding $1,400,000 for the continuation of the project. The third amendment is for the Brannigan Library renovation and expansion. And as this project has moved forward, there has been expenses, and we have reviewed our accounts. So the amendment you have here is to reflect the funding that the project has available to continue with the project. For this project, I would like to invite Sarah Booth from the library to provide more details.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Councilors. I'm Sarah Booth, Library Deputy Director. The Thomas Brannigan Memorial Library Renovation and Expansion Project is currently in the design process. This amendment shows the funding for completing the design process for both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the renovation and expansion. The design project is expected to be completed in late summer 2026. I would like to thank Orlando Granado, Project Manager for Public Works, for his input and assistance to with this project. Desert Peak Architects, working with our consultant Brad Waters, have created a conceptual design statement that embodies the representation of the library and its impact to the Las Cruces community. The Brannigan Library that we are renovating and expanding was originally designed to reflect Indigenous forms, and then this statement builds on that original design. The statement is, the Brannigan Library is a vessel where earth and sky merge to accommodate the retention of information and to compel the community to share in rituals of knowledge. Thank you for your continued support of this project and our library. I would like to now turn it over to Quality of Life Director Carol Bray.
Thank you, Sarah. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Carol Bray, Director of the Quality of Life Department. And I just wanted to add a couple of things. First, I wanted to say I am so pleased to see that our architects are recognizing the original design of this Brannigan Library, because I remember when I became director of the libraries in the late 90s, Don Dresp, who had been the director for 25 years before me, and some of you knew him, was very proud to show me the indigenous aspects of the design of that building, something that isn't always so obvious today. We don't think about that unless you look at it from certain angles, and then you can really see it. So I am very pleased that our architects are recognizing the value of that design and continuing with that in this new design for the renovation and expansion. They even noted in their concept summary that the original library structure drew inspiration from native architectural forms like the kiva, which some of us have visited kivas, as in near Silver City, for example, a sacred space often carved into the earth to serve as a vessel for knowledge and reflection, separate from the distractions of the world above. I love thinking of a library that way, as a space for knowledge and reflection. I also know that libraries can be so good for our community. I have seen libraries change lives throughout my entire career, and I was so sorry that I was kind of out of pocket during the tragedy in Young Park, but I know that our librarians, our museum workers are working every day with people that come into our facilities for helpful resources, information, a safe space, and solid alternative activities. So we will continue to do that good work, and we look forward to renovating and expanding the Brannigan Library to be able to provide that kind of service for everyone in our community for years to come. So thank you again for your support.
Cynthia Lamillo for the record. I just want to quickly continue with our last amendment for today. This is for the drainage infrastructure improvements. At a past council meeting, we presented 2 CIP amendments to reflect the completion of the Midway project and the Bellingham Drive project. So after the completion of those 2 projects, the remaining funds will be allocated to the drainage infrastructure improvements project to continue completing more projects. So now I would like to invite David Cedillo, Public Works, to give more information on those 2 recently completed projects.
Again, good afternoon, Mayor, Council, David Cedillo, Public Works Director for the record. And I want to share with you, like Cynthia stated, 2 projects that have been completed within our community. The first is going to be Bellingham Drive. This is in District 3. The improvements were a full reconstruction of this roadway from Lee's Drive to Luna Street. So that encompasses 4 blocks. In that 4 blocks, there's 3 intersections with Dove Lane, Locust Street, and Klein Avenue. As you can see right here in your picture, this is what Klein Avenue used to look like. And I'll go into some more details here in a little bit. But through this full reconstruction, all utilities were upgraded: water, sewer, gas, street lighting. There was the full replacement of the roadway cross-section, which included the subgrade base asphalt that you see, and as the curb and gutter and sidewalks. The other aspect of this project is along Bellingham, there were improvements from various properties that encroached into the right-of-way. So when we did this full reconstruction project, we expanded our improvements all the way to the right-of-way lines. That included relocating improvements that were within the right-of-way. This has included either walls, different types of walls, CMU, chain link fence, wood, or metal. Those, as part of the project, were moved back to the property lines to take full advantage of the rebuild. With that, we were able to install 5-foot sidewalks, the curb and gutter, the roadway, and other improvements. Now, I did mention that we would be looking at other things that were done as part of this project. Again, this is what Locust Street looked like prior to construction. As you can see, there's 2 points of entry in a very short distance that makes it very unsafe for other modes of transportation, specifically pedestrians. As part of that design, this was used to make a full T intersection right here with Locust. It eliminated that Y. It shortened that crossing now for pedestrians, so now they're no longer exposed to traffic. It's a shorter period of time. To repurpose that area, we added a detention pond. Because there is no underground storm drain, and it's all surface flow that collects in our systems further downstream, which are to the west, we use this opportunity to capture some of that runoff, hold it, and as the levels get higher in this pond, they slowly release. It does a couple of things. It collects that water, but more importantly, it slows its velocity downstream. So now, with the improvements, and even though it was paved before, that water's slowed down now. And that water that remains there either infiltrates or evaporates. So we're having less drainage into our system downstream. You will also notice that we made other improvements. There were things that our staff looked at for safety. If you notice here in the picture, you're going to see a little advanced warning sign. That is the advanced warning for a speed cushion. There were speeding issues on here, so as part of the design, staff, when we designed this, included these measures right off the bat. There's 3 of them along this stretch, which is 4 blocks. And as you can see, it's a fairly long straightaway. And that was what staff recommended and we built as part of the project. And lastly, when we finished this project, there was a cost savings of $262,000, came in under budget. Our next project is Midway Avenue. This is in District 5, north of US 70. This is between Mesa Drive and Gasline Road. Gasline Road is an intersection that goes over a large petroleum transmission line. Prior, it was owned by Magellan, but this transmission line goes all the way down from El Paso up north. We historically have not been able to build improvements over that. More recently, we have been more successful in building those improvements over that easement. So this is Midway, and on its left-hand side is its current condition. This, again, was a full reconstruction project, which included upgrades of the utilities. And as you can see from its existing condition, there is no curb and gutter, there's no sidewalk, and there's no street lighting. So if the picture on the right are those completed improvements. Now, with those, people now have an opportunity to not only get out of walking in traffic, but have an area to where they can safely move. This also connected other improvements west on Midway that actually connect all the way to Mesa Grande. So now people have a full connection along with the infrastructure that's been in place in making these connections. Down in this picture here, again, the same conditions. However, this is closer to Gasline Road looking east. And again, with those, you can see the street lighting, sidewalk, curb and gutter. The most important part of this, though, is that connection, right? We are giving all modes of transportation opportunities to move around with these improvements. So what this project did, by adding sidewalks on both the north and the south side of the roadway, we closed 1,770 feet of sidewalk gaps with this project. Those efforts also continue with other funding, but for this project here, it made that full connection. And now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Cynthia Lamillo.
You had a question, Councilor
Yes,
Flores? Go ahead.
This is a tangential question, but it brings up the issue of this kind of work in other districts. And I was just wondering if there's anything like that happening in District 6 in the Hacienda Acres, and if it's not, can you keep that in mind? It's just a nice ask.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, There's absolutely a project going on in District 6, and that's with Cortez Drive.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a full reconstruction,
Okay.
adding that connection between, I believe, Dunn all the way out to Porter.
Yeah. I'm very happy to hear that. I think I've talked to you about this till, and I'll be talking about it till Kingdom Come. Actually, no, I won't. I won't be talking about it after December of this year, because I will no longer be on the council, so I am just hoping that it gets done one day. So thank you very much, Mr. Cedillo.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
Councilor.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I have a question too, David. Mayor, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I'm going to give lots of finger snaps to your presentation, David. I just really want to, I know you know this because you do this work every day, but just like to put a finer point to how this kind of project improves immediately the quality of life for people. So I just want to say that, and I think so much of the work that was done in Realize was to ensure that neighborhoods like this never have to experience this kind of thing ever again, right? That's so important. Can you just talk a little bit about what was the total cost of this?
I have that right here.
Thank you.
So Mayor, Councilor Bencomo, the total cost for Midway without GRTs was $780,031.
Okay. What was the length of it?
This covered 920 feet.
Yeah.
So that was the full block from Gasline Road over to Mesa Drive. That, from the start of those improvements to the center line of Mesa Drive is 920 feet.
Yeah, thank you, David. I just, obviously this is the goal, right, for all of Las Cruces, and it takes a lot of investment and a lot of resources, and so just thank you, David, and these are very much the kinds of things I had envisioned when we talked to voters about a GRT increase and how this can improve people's quality of life. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and definitely kudos to staff.
Cynthia Lamillo for the record. Thank you, Sarah, Carol, and David. Council, with that, we have your council options for the 4 CIP amendments that were presented.
Oh, you had a question, Councilor? Yes.
Just a quick comment.
Yes,
Sorry
ma'am.
about that.
Go ahead.
So excited to see Bellama wrapped up. That was kind of my baptism to council. I came in and got to see all of staff, particularly Public Works, particularly David and Tony's ability to make really difficult information much easier to understand, especially for me. And you really helped me learn how to interact with constituents with a range of concerns. And also, thanks, you always make me Google stuff, David, and just from the last presentation, I now know the difference between a gazebo and a pergola, so thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other, Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-115. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.5, resolution number 25-116, a resolution approving a reimbursement agreement between the City of Las Cruces and Sierra Norte Development for an improved neighborhood public park.
Move to approve. Second.
Good afternoon. Catherine Harrison Rogers for the record. Let us see here. Let's go ahead and get started. So we are here today to request a reimbursement agreement, approval of a reimbursement agreement for the construction of a neighborhood park in the Metro Verde area. As you know, parks really do bring value to our community. They foster positive social interactions, they increase social capacity, People of all ages and income levels, races and ethnicities use these spaces and generally create a healthier environment for our community. I think we all know that as members of our community that they do wonderful things. We have the ability to work with developers whereby they construct neighborhood parks, and then we reimburse them for said construction using our park impact fees that are collected in the neighborhoods they build. This particular park that we're speaking to today is located in the Metro Verde area. Essentially, it is part of what's called Metro Evolution Phase 2, sandwiched between Red Hawk Road and Sonoma Ranch, just south of Lisa Lane and north of Peachtree. You can see generally the outline of the park here, this lovely little wedge, highly accessible from several roadways with a lot of on-street parking to accommodate that park. This particular park in District 5 will consist of turf, playground, a bike skills course, which we're really excited about for small children or entry-level riders, and of course, landscaping. There is also a sports field area. I had indicated there would be turf. That's approximately 2 acres. The total park size is a little over 3 acres. If you recall, our park impact fees that are collected at the time of construction for individual units is $2,600 per unit. This particular park will service approximately 595 residential lots. We'll be collecting fees from those lots as they're constructed. That total park impact fee amount is a little above $1.5 million, so a lovely nest egg. And based on the estimates in terms of construction of this park, the developer is requesting a little less than $1 million in reimbursement, $959,000. I have some photos for you just so that you can see what we're talking about in terms of the bicycle skills course. You can see that this portion of the park, which is the western portion of the park, is intended for that bike skill course. And there's some representative imagery from the company who is constructing the bike skills course. And again, it's intended to really encourage young riders and new riders to develop those skills and have fun while they're doing it. We are also having a playground installed at this location with some features that are somewhat unique to our park system. You can see some really fantastic rope climbing areas and some slides. Again, these are just renderings of that particular feature. And at this moment, council has several options. You can vote yes to approve, no to deny, you can vote to amend, or vote to table. And we're here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Councilor Corin.
Thank you. Very exciting new park. I, just want to put a pin in our idea of park impact fees. I'm always hoping that we'll continue to have that conversation, and I hope that we do keep having it. But I also just want to ask sort of what the timeline is for this process and sort of what kinds of accountability is built into the timeline. I know that that's part of reimbursement and developers doing parks. So that's the first part that I would ask if you could just share a little bit about, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Councilor Cron. So this particular park, so the subdivision itself is under construction. Typically, the way Metro Verde has worked in the past is large swaths of those subdivisions are sort of sold up front to home builders, and so they're constructing essentially as quick as things are finished. That is historically what has happened. So we start collecting those fees as soon as those individual units are permitted through community development. And as that nest egg is sort of built up, then we can either pay the contractor, i.e. Metro Verde, John Moscato, in one lump sum or in installments as those are collected. He is very well under construction. He did send me a note before this meeting, was unable to attend today, but they have done the earthwork and the perimeter sidewalks already been completed. They're working on irrigation systems next week. The play equipment, site furnishings, bike skills ramp have all been ordered, and he anticipates the construction will be completed by August 2025. And so as we collect those fees in the area that had been outlined for the Metro Evolution subdivision, and there's one other subdivision that's part of the total lot number, which is Metro Verde West, I believe Phase 2. Once those fees come in and we have enough to then submit to the developer, we will do so and then exchange the land and it will be available to use. But we anticipate August.
Awesome. Thank you.
That was a very long explanation.
No, that
Apologies.
was perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Very good.
And I'm really excited for us to have another park in District 5 for the residents. And I just want to say how excited I am. I want to give a shout out to Ashley Curry, who's always encouraging people like me who don't ride bikes very often to do dangerous things and ride more. Not dangerous, but I just want to give a shout out to our Safe Routes of School / bike encourager for kids, because I think bike skills, I know when I took my motorcycle class, they literally just threw a 2x4 in front of us and we had to ride over it, and it was very harrowing. This seems like a much better approach for kids to practice their bike skills. Motorcycle class. So I will be sure to see folks, including Ashley, perhaps at the park in August. So thank you again, Catherine.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Flores.
Thank you. And thank you, Catherine, for your thorough presentation. I do have a question about the park fees.
Yes, ma'am.
So those park fees are paid by the developer, and so Moscato is privy to that. I mean, he works for, what's his face? I can't think of his name right now.
Royal Jones.
Como?
Royal Jones is one of the
Royal
partners.
Jones, yeah, Royal Jones, yeah. So how does that work? I mean, they provide the money up front, but then they expect money back. Hi.
So
Are they making enough money? Isn't Royal Jones rich enough?
So I'd be happy to answer the question, members of the council, Mayor, Councilor Flores. Ultimately, what happens in this particular case, and not always, sometimes we have a developer who develops the land and also constructs the houses. In the case of Metro Verde, the developer basically builds out all of land, including the park in this case, but the park impact fees are actually collected from the individual home builder who is permitting out those individual units, and we collect from the home builders, and then ultimately then we reimburse Mr. Moscato and his company. It's not his, he's just a representative of the company for these particular features. And so all of those costs, and I can't speak for Mr. Moscato and how they deal with all of that, but all of those costs and the assumptions are built into whatever real estate deals they have with the individual home builders.
And so that is a general accepted business practice in that field?
To my knowledge, yes. It's done here and has been done here for years, and is legally, I guess.
It's a bona fide practice.
Bona fide practice in other places, yes, ma'am.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Matisse.
Catherine, thank you. Maybe you have some totals for me. What's the total impact fees on a home for a home buyer? It's park fees and there are other fees?
Councilor Matisse, members of City Council, Mr. Mayor, yes, there's several fees. There's generally the park impact fee is one. There's a utilities impact fee that is assessed at the time of construction as well. And there are public safety impact fees that are assessed as well throughout the process. I can't speak to the exact amount, only the amount that we collect, which is the $2,600 for park impact fees per unit.
Okay, and I bring that up because we've had several people come doing the public comments how housing's getting expensive. So it's actually the homeowner that probably pays for all of these. It's probably in the cost of the home.
Councilor Matisse, members of council, I would assume, like any construction, any fee, whether it's permitting fees or what have you, is usually wrapped up into the total price of whatever that person is purchasing.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No. None? Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-116. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.6, resolution number 25-117, a resolution authorizing the city of Las Cruces to accept budget adjustments for the sports field lighting replacements through an amendment to the city's adopted FY 2024, 24-25 budget.
Move to approve, Graham.
Second, Corin?
Good afternoon, Mayor, councilors, city staff, and public. My name is Jacqueline Rubalcava, Budget and Grant Administrator with the Finance Department. I am presenting today a resolution to reallocate funding to repair and replace sports field lighting. Due to safety concerns, the lighting system at the sports field needs to be replaced. As a result, we are requesting to reallocate $3.4 million within the 2023 SSGRT, or State Shared Gross Receipts Fund. There is no net increase to the FY25 budget. This would shift the accounts needed to track the project. I will hand it over to Cynthia Lamillo, and she'll go over the CIP amendment portion.
Cynthia Lamillo, CIP Manager with Planning and Implementation. With the adjustment or the reallocation of the funds to this specific project of replacement and replacement of lighting, we are presenting one amendment that has a twofold purpose. The first one is to create a new CIP project called Sports Field Lighting that will encompass replacing lighting at the sports fields. And this will also be a fully funded project as we're allocating the total funds needed to complete the light replacements, which is $3.5 million. And this amendment is to reflect the funding adjustment, so the CIP document is reflected of this new project that is fully funded. And I'll pass it along to Jacqueline for options.
Oh, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Just clarity on, is it all sports field across the city, or?
I believe.
Did you say Hadley? My apologies if I missed it.
I did not. No, I did not say Hadley. We do have the Parks and Rec Director here, and he can elaborate on exactly what the funds will be used for.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, Mayor Stephen Bam, Parks and Rec Director. The lights at a number of fields are not being replaced. Rangallo is remaining, Apodaca Baseball, some soccer fields, East Mesa Complex. The lights that are being replaced is at Mag, Hardy, Paz, and Apodaca Softball. Thank you.
Anyone else? Just another question. You said this is new? This is new, Cynthia, sorry.
Correct.
This will be a new project. I thought we had already allocated some funds for the lighting. When it had gone down in Hardy Field a couple years ago, I thought there was funding that was allocated for this project. So can you explain the new?
Yes, Cynthia Lamillo, CIP Manager. We currently have another project related to lighting, specifically is for Hadley Field lighting. The reason why we are presenting a new CIP project is because we want to encompass more than one location. So we're providing a little bit more flexibility to the department. So we, instead of having individual projects for each of the fields, we're going with one that will encompass all of them. So we went with sports field lighting. The only project that I recall for lighting related to parks is for Hadley Field. So there might have been one in the past, and I don't know if it was completed or if there was a change. I will need to go back to see the historicals to see if I can find more information on specific lighting projects.
Okay, thank you. Christine?
This is on the motion to approve Resolution 25-117. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Well, yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is item 7.7, Council Bill number 25-020, Ordinance 3091, an ordinance repealing and replacing Chapter 7 Animals of the Las Cruces Municipal Code.
Move to approve. Graham.
Second, Corin.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Brad Douglas, City Attorney, for the record. Feels as though we may have been here before. So I'm here to talk to you today about the proposed repeal and replace of the animals ordinance within our municipal code. And so here is a quick discussion of the key revisions that we've made. We've clarified the care and maintenance requirements for companion animals. There are more comprehensive protections for those animals in place. If you'll recall, there was quite a bit of discussion regarding whether the path that the city wanted to go down was mandatory spay and neuter for all companion animals, unless there was some sort of enumerated exemption, which we've built into the draft, or whether there would be a sort of what I would refer to as a compromise approach. The approach that we've decided to take is that there would be mandatory spay and neuter requirements for companion animals who are found to be in violation of restraint requirements 2 times or more in a year. The rationale behind that was if your companion animal is repeatedly on the loose or running at large, well then we really ought to look at seeing about sterilizing that companion animal to avoid unwanted overpopulation, unwanted breeding behaviors. And so that's what we're proposing to you all. And there are still enumerated exemptions even for those animals. So if, say, it would be unsafe for the, I'm going to say pet, I probably shouldn't say that, but if it were to be unsafe for the pet to be sterilized and there's a note from a veterinarian, well then that would not apply. Obviously, if it was a police service dog, that would not apply. There are several enumerated exemptions. And so we felt like this was a more fair and equitable approach while also taking into account the concerns that this governing body has raised in the past. I just mentioned that if the spay and neuter requirement is adopted, there is a list of exemptions for qualifying companion animals. We have proposed new restrictions on when tethering a companion animal would be allowed. Under the rewrite, you would only be allowed to tether your companion animal for up to a 1 hour period in a 24-hour day. Now, I've heard some concerns about this very recently. And the concern was, well, what if my dog has to go to the bathroom more than once a day? And it's important to notice that this is all going to be, or at least the tethering restriction is going to be complaint driven. If there's a health, safety, welfare concern for the animal, that's when enforcement would come in. I don't think that animal control is going to be driving past a house at 6 in the morning and saying, okay, the animal was on the tether for 23 minutes. Let me come back at noon. Oh, the animal's not there. At 1 o'clock, oh, 18 minutes. They've only got 19 more minutes today. That's not the intent. The intent is for the health, safety, and well-being of the animal. Of course, tethering has its own safety concerns. Studies have shown that animals that are tethered for long periods of time often they exhibit aggressive behaviors, and so we're trying to get rid of that. Under the rewrite, there are more comprehensive prohibitions on abuse, neglect, and abandonment of companion animals. So, for example, defocalization of a companion animal would be rendered illegal. Declawing of companion animals would be more limited, and there is a lot more, my favorite word, Mayor Pro Tem, there's a more robust enforcement with regard to the prohibition on animal fighting and possession of any paraphernalia related to animal fighting. Irresponsible pet owners convicted 2 or more times of violating this chapter in a calendar year may be prohibited from pet ownership for a prescribed time period. As I've mentioned earlier, if the spay and neuter update is passed, then residents may apply for intact animal permits pursuant to those qualifiers. There are revisions to community cat and community cat caretaker standards, and while I'm on this bullet, I think it makes some sense to let you know that I was very recently approached by Animal Control and LCPD within the last week or two. It wasn't very recent, within the last week or two. And the one amendment that they would like to propose today is with regard to the community cat and community cat caretaker standards. What I would recommend is I'm going to tell you what their proposed amendment is, and it's up to you, obviously. But since it is an amendment on the day of, I would recommend letting public participation play out, just in the interest of fairness, but of course that's up to you all. So their proposed amendment would be that if a community cat is impounded 3 or more times, then that community cat would not be returned to the area where it was captured. And I'll let, I guess I won't let him. Gino, where are you? Look at him hiding back there. I'll let him state his position with regard to that possible amendment. I'm really excited about number 12. The Las Cruces Municipal Court would have more clearly defined authority regarding dangerous dog and potentially dangerous dog designations, with the authority to enforce handling and registration requirements. We have that now, but quite frankly, parts of the code as it's currently written are confusing, are ambiguous, seem to conflict with one another, and also potentially the state statute. So we've done a lot of revision and clarification on that section. And I think it'll be in the best interest of public safety if that were to pass. And then we've clarified the reclamation requirements at the ASCMV. Again, just to summarize, the overall goal is to achieve a more comprehensive code that prevents animal suffering within the city, improves public health, welfare, and safety, and also addresses overpopulation concerns for those companion animals who are habitually found to be running at large or in violation of restraint requirements. To empower our animal control officers in their duties, to remove ambiguity and confusing language where possible, to reduce unnecessary euthanasia of companion animals, and to identify those appropriate exemptions for mandatory spay and neuter. I've gone over this before, but just a quick recap. Spay and neuter requirements have been held to be constitutional in New Mexico. There are published cases on point. Our goal should be to avoid criminalizing otherwise responsible pet owners who may be unable to afford spay and neuter procedures. There is language within the proposed ordinance that states that the city of Las Cruces shall strive as part of its budget to provide funding. It doesn't quite commit us to do it. It's a little aspirational, I'll be honest. But thanks to Councilor Corrin and others, we have been providing those funds to assist with low to medium income individuals who may need that assistance in getting it when they want it. Of course, factors to consider are availability of qualified vets to perform those services within the city. Something to consider, whether the fees collected should be remitted to the general fund or redirected to ASCMV. The fees would be, the fees that I'm describing are, special animal permits, multi-animal permits. And the language of the proposed ordinance is that at a later date, this body would set those fees via resolution. I don't like having fees set in an ordinance. I like for the governing body to have more flexibility when setting those fees, and it's also more of a hassle to repeal and replace an ordinance, whereas if it's done via resolution, that's something that gives all of you, like I said, a lot more flexibility. If things need to be updated, they can be updated in an easier manner. And like I said, we're trying to strike the balance between protecting vulnerable animals and upholding public safety while not penalizing people who may not otherwise be able to afford spay and neuter procedures. Mr. Jimenez, anything? Did I leave anything out?
Got it.
He says that I got it, but afterward he's going to tell me everything I forgot. And so your council options today would be vote yes to approve, vote no to deny, vote to amend. The one amendment that Animal Control and LCPD were proposing is that there be a new paragraph underneath community cat and community cat caretaker requirements. And their proposed amendment would be that a community cat that is impounded 3 times or more shall not be returned to the area where it was captured. And of course, the vote to table to another date if necessary, and I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Brad. Mr. Jimenez, Gino, did you want to speak to the item, the issue you were talking about? I don't know if Brad had mentioned. Let them give their presentation, then we'll ask questions.
Mayor, Council, for the record, my name is Gino Jimenez. I'm the Animal Control Supervisor. The reason that Mr. Douglas brought that up was for clarification, if needed, on that 3 strikes or that community cat being impounded 3 times within that calendar year. If there's any explanation needed for that, I am more than willing to explain.
Okay, but what you're advocating for is to return them not to the same location. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. Right now, the way that the shelter, it is simply a policy with the Animal Service Center. It's not part of our ordinance. So all we're asking to do is to make that agreement between the director and our into the ordinance. Whereas if a community cat is impounded 3 or more times within that calendar year, it can no longer go back to that same colony. It could be placed in a enclosed colony, adopted, any other place. Once a cat has been impounded such, it is showing signs of domestication, so it has a great chance of adoption, really.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Any questions, Mike, Council? Councilor Flores?
I'm dazed and confused. And so it seems like the cat thing isn't quite clear, or there's something not quite right with that part. Can you clarify it? I mean, the way it's written and the way it would be enforced. I know that there's been a lot of people who attend the Animal Service Center meetings were against it. And when all of this was being proposed, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, to codify everything, there was a lot of pushback. So I'm just wondering how that language, it just doesn't seem complete. So,
Mayor, Council Flores, again, that agreement was already in place, or that practice is already in place. It was an agreement between Mr. Thacker at the time, the director at the time, that any cat that was impounded 3 or more times would not be returned to the area that it was initially impounded from or captured it. Mm-hmm. All we're doing is putting that into the ordinance to state the same thing. A cat, like I said previously, a cat that has been captured or impounded is basically showing signs of domestication, so that cat has a better chance of being placed in a forever home rather than being placed back out into a colony.
thank you, Gino.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Councilor Curran.
Thank you, Brad. I just want to give really a huge appreciation to all of the community folks who have been talking to us about this for a really long time. I know that the city has been thinking about things like TNR in the past, thinking about spay and neuter, thinking about our euthanasia rate, thinking about the shelter in all of these different ways, and the big missing piece was our ordinance. And I really appreciate the persistence of the community folks who have committed extraordinary amounts of time and hours to this, to animal control, for being there in those conversations, and for you all contributing to this different vision, which is we expect people to care for their pets in our community, and we're going to support them in the ways that we most meaningfully can, and keep animals out of our shelter. I just really want to give a shout out for years, literally years of work that you all have done, and thinking about this, and compromising and coming to different places and having conversations about what it means to take care of animals in our community, in a whole bunch of different ways. So I just really want to give extreme appreciation for bringing this forward, all of you who contributed to this and have been thinking about this for a long time. I think it's really meaningful, and I do hope that we can put with this, I think, a really important symbol, regardless of enforcement details that I know are included as a part of this too. But I really hope that one of the things that we can say is everyone should be spaying and neutering their pets. We're here to support you. That's part of our norm in our community. And really getting to the, not 30 dogs going into the animal shelter every day, which is really the sad part of this that I think drives the need. So changing the norms and our rhetorical approach to how we say we're caring for animals in our community. So I thank you for your efforts in this, and I commit to continuing this conversation in the public sphere and communicating about this as much as possible. So thank you again.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Matisse.
What I like to bring up is when you rewrite something, you have a lot of new enforcement strategies in this new ordinance. Can I find out how much the budget will be increased and how many more animal control officers will be hired? And this is why I'm asking for a compliance officer in the city of Las Cruces, because we rewrite things, we bring in new ordinances, but we have to back it up with a big increase in the budget and new codes, ACO people. So is that happening? Is that in the books? Is that in the planning?
Mayor, Councilor Matisse, with regard to this ordinance, no, this ordinance does not address, anything like additional hiring, additional resources that will be needed. What I can tell you is that it's a bear of a project to rewrite an entire chapter. To echo Councilor Corrin, I'd like to thank Animal Control Supervisor Gino Jimenez, Lieutenant Joy Wiedela of LCPD, and I want to give a special shout out to at least two of our community partners, Kathy Stark and Jerry Wheelis, who are here today. With regard to this ordinance, I'm not exaggerating. Just the meetings that went into this, probably somewhere between 30 to 40 hours. And that's just for the meetings. That doesn't include all of the rewrites, all of the conversations had over the phone, over emails. But with regard to the way that the ordinance is written, we tried to be conscientious about the way that we drafted it, because we didn't want to give animal control just this unfunded mandate. You've got all of these new duties now, and you don't have nearly enough people. I'm sure that Mr. Jimenez would gladly take a few extra animal control officers, correct? But we were thoughtful when we drafted this. Is that something that could probably come up in the future? I'm sure that it could and probably should. But I'll repeat myself, I'm a broken record sometimes. The way that this ordinance was drafted was so that it could affect the maximum possible change without adding additional, unbearable stress or additional requirements on our ACOs. The intent of the ordinance was really twofold: to protect companion animals throughout the city, but also to empower our animal control officers. And I believe, Counselor, that we've done that with this rewrite.
Okay, and with that said, in other words, on April 14th, when we come up with some priorities for the budget, this will be a priority that I'll bring up if that's not a problem. You know, I think if you're going to have a rewrite, and I notice you do have a lot more enforcement provisions in it, I cannot see the same staff handling all those new provisions and the growth in the city. And now the respect and care for animals will have to be enforced, because if it's not, then it's just a token, you know, it's just a token ordinance, and people will say, well, they're not doing anything about it. And then we'll be in the same place. So I'll do that on April 14th, and hopefully our city manager, Connie, will respect my request. Thank you.
Thank you,
very
Councilor
much.
Matisse.
Councilor Flores?
Thank you. Thank you again, Brad, and thank you, Gino. It seems to me, well, so is there a budget for the additional officers that you're going to be needing? Because I know that, you know, you're overwhelmed with, you know, so my question is, and are we fully funded to provide additional officers?
Mayor, Council Flores, yes, ma'am, there's always a need for additional support. The request has always been made, so.
Mm-hmm. You know, my experience with Jerry Willis, dear friend, it goes back years, you know, like, I don't know, 6 years or so. And then with the other members of that committee or that group. And I know that there's just been so many discussion, you know, like how many chickens can you have, you know, can you have horses, and, you know, yada, yada. But the cat issue is the one that is probably, the most difficult, because I just don't know. I mean, is it really enforceable, or are we just putting it down to appease just to appease the community? And not the community cats, but the community that is of people who are participating in this process, with all due respect.
Sure request.
I mean, I know you attend all those meetings, Gino.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, yes, that discussion or that topic is always greatly emotional. There are citizens that feel great that the cats should be left alone, and then there's the enforcement part of it, where we can't actually just turn our back to it. We've got to address those issues. So I think in the last rewrite, which I believe was in 2019, is when this compromise of community cat came to the table. So over the past couple rights into the proposal that you have now is something that I believe, like Mr. Douglas said earlier, is a huge compromise on both parts.
Okay.
You know, everybody is understanding everybody else's role.
And then how does the county, is the county going to have a similar, some similar, legislation? Or how is
Mayor,
that going to work out?
Councilor Flores, I know that in the past, the city and the county have always tried to mirror our ordinances.
No.
However, there's different requirements and different restrictions. You know, of course, in the county, the plot sizes are much greater than those in the city. So they are allotted to have more animals and such. But we do our best to mirror each other. I haven't gotten with Mary Lou Ward yet to see her opinion or feedback on this part yet. So as soon as it's approved, I will reach out to her.
Okay, so you're saying that if we approve it, maybe they'll do the same thing?
Maybe,
and,
yes.
And maybe not.
And
I mean,
it'll be at their discretion.
I left my crystal ball at home, so I can't. It's just very, it's an emotional issue, I think, for a lot of us. But I know that Barbara Bencomo and I worked on revising the JPA, the agreement between the city and the county. And it was like, and we went through it with a fine tooth comb. And I don't know if this really affects anything, except the manpower. I mean, I don't know. I just don't, I think, or the person power, the people power, power to the people. Yeah, I think there's I don't know. I just don't see how it could really work. I mean, I can see the thinking behind it, the humanity, the empathy, but I don't know. I mean, I'm really torn, without a doubt.
Mayor, Councilor Flores, with the passing of this ordinance, of course, it's not going to affect the JPA. You brought up the topic of manpower. Animal control hasn't had a increase in manpower since 2009.
Right.
So, and it's not, there's always been that request made. And I believe that with the passing of this ordinance, it may increase that. Have the opportunity to increase that manpower.
It may increase, it may not increase. I'm just wondering if there's going to be legislation on the books that can't be enforced, and they're just there to, to look pretty or something, to look nice. I don't know. Anyway, I'm really torn about this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Gino. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Councilor Corinne.
I just, really quickly to this end, I think in the budget presentations, Councilor Graham actually included animal control as one of her priorities, as a funding priority in December when we did that. So I just want to say that it seems like it's in conversation, so thank you for pointing that out early on. But I also just want to point out, I think in some ways, the work that happened with TNR, the shelter was putting to sleep many cats that were being taken in, many community cats prior to us passing a rule and kind of just changing the conversation. Recently, the shelter has had very few cats coming in. And it's been an extraordinary, there have been weeks where they have had no cats in the shelter for people to adopt. And that has been a years-long conversation, and that has to do with many community partners and a range of policies and practices. But that was a community sort of statement on what we want to do about cats in our community, and we didn't want to put them to sleep. And that we did it sort of haphazardly, I think, in the way that we wrote that original ordinance. I think there were a lot of loose ends and not necessarily thinking about the resources, but those have come steadily since then, and I think there has been a change in how we approach that. So to me, I would say, I don't know that it's always, the perfect is the enemy of the good, but to me, saying collectively that we want to change our values and the ways that we talk about this and think about it does make a difference, I think. And that's why I think this is really promising to me and hopeful, because I think we can say, we're changing the way we think about this, we're changing the way we talk about this, we're changing the way we support animal control and what they do and the Animal Services Center. So I just feel like there is hope, Councilor Flores. I'm sharing it to you now.
Hope springs eternal. Thank you.
That's it?
Mayor, just one last thing. Brad, thank you, and I just want to echo everybody, thank you for the work that you've put into it. I know it's been long, so I want to just acknowledge that for sure. I have sort of one request around, particularly around spay and neuter citations that may be given out, and how many of those municipal court is seeing. Obviously, I was early on sort of critiquer of this piece that we're just, this might just criminalize more people, which is why I also talked about animal welfare during our budget retreat, just like Councilor Graham did early on. And especially in spay and neuter funding and those kinds of things. But I would like to see, like 6 months in, a year out, Brad, just are people being funneled through there? Are people being sort of intervened early on and engaged and asked to, participate in the many efforts in our community? That's just really my request. But I do want to just thank all of you for the many hours.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I'll get with, if this measure passes, I'll get with Mr. Jimenez and Lieutenant Wiedela. I'll get with my internal staff, and we can do some updates for you and make sure that it, hopefully it does what we want it to do. But if it has unintended consequences that we don't like, we could always come back and amend at a later date. But we will we'll keep you apprised of those numbers.
Okay, good. Thank you, Brad, Lieutenant Wiederla, and Gino. Thank you for all your work, and to the members of the community. And with that, I'd say, is there anybody from the community, any public participation, anybody that will want to speak? Okay, I'll give you a couple of minutes.
Good afternoon. Jerry Wheelis, Animal Advocates for Change. Mayor, Councilor Flores, just wanted to address one item that you brought up, and that was the coordination with the county. Kathy and I have been having many meetings as well with the county, and Mary Lou is on board to try and mirror as much as possible with the city. So that should not be an impediment. So.
Thank you, Jim.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. I'm Dina Dargo. Last month, I had the honor of lobbying at the state capitol with animal advocates from all across the state on behalf of Animal Protection New Mexico. I came away knowing that Las Cruces is much too big to still be considered kind of the Wild West and whatever goes with animals. That's just not who we are as a community anymore. HB 113 is the Animal Welfare Program Fund. It passed both chambers nearly unanimously and is currently on the governor's desk waiting to be signed. That fund allocates $5 million for government agencies and nonprofit groups statewide to better serve animal control, sheltering, rescue, and population control. These funds will be available as early as June 20th of this year. I respectfully ask you to pass the new animal ordinance in time to apply for funding for a greatly expanded and easily attainable low-cost spay-neuter program, as well as public education and enforcement of the new ordinance. This is an opportunity to get a handle on animal overpopulation and make a lasting difference so that our shelters and animal control departments aren't permanently overwhelmed and pets don't continue to be abused, neglected, abandoned, or euthanized simply because there are too many of them. If we love animals, let's make that love matter by taking action to protect and manage them in a way that reflects our humane values. And I have copies of the fact sheet for that House Bill 113. The governor has until the 11th, just 5 days from now, 4 days, to sign that. So I'll leave those copies with you if you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Mayor and councilors, first of all, I'd like to introduce you to a Mesilla Valley Animal Services Center success story. I've had her for 12 and a half years. She was scheduled to be euthanized the day I adopted her, and her name is Brandy Alexandra, and she was one of my pets that helped raise over $20,000 for the Doña Ana County Humane Society several years ago and was recognized by this august body. I definitely want to make sure that the spay and neuter action program is continued. In fact, their budget probably, if you approve this measure, we can get it in time to get some of this money that's going to be available coming up here from the new legislation. Spay and Neuter Action Center, I've been working with them for years, just as I have with the Doña Ana County Humane Society, and it is a successful program. It is working. And we need to get more animal control officers out there. I know that has to be a budget item, but definitely we need to produce and promote the Spay and Neuter Action Program as a high priority. I'm requesting that you approve this measure. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. You want to do the...
I did want to just bring up the matter of the amendment, I didn't hear any sort of public comment on that, as Brad maybe was hoping for. I generally want to sort of say yes to the recommendation from the folks on the front lines. In humans, I don't love the 3 strikes rule, but I recognize that this could potentially be different, and so I did appreciate the further clarification you provided. I'm okay with it, but I did want to make sure that we made room for that conversation for folks if they're feeling any other way. Brad, if you have it written, maybe you can provide that to one of us.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. If there's a motion for an amendment, I would recommend language to the following effect, and it would be a new paragraph under section 7-32A, community cats and community cat caregivers. The proposed language would be, if a community cat is impounded 3 or more times, it shall not be returned to the area where it was captured.
I move we amend it to that.
Second.
Okay, so this is on the amendment as proposed by Brad. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes.
This is on the motion to approve Ordinance 3091 as amended. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is board appointments. We have one, David Strobhar, a new appointment to the CIAC. I'll need a motion and a second.
Move to approve. Second, Graham.
This is on the motion to appoint David Strobar to the CIAC. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes. Next is a notice of proposed ordinances. There are none. Next is city council member board reports and comments. Councilor McClure?
Thank you, Mayor. I've been thinking about what I'm going to say today, and I'm hoping I can get through it. A lot of times it's a response to what I hear in council comments, but I've been thinking about this for a long time, and you'll get a sense of why here in a second. It's hard to say anything new about the epidemic of gun violence in our country, aside from the fact that there are members of our community that should have gone home a few nights ago and they didn't. And I grieve with the parents and the family and the friends in our city, frankly. My heart is heavy, but my heart has been heavy for a long time, and I just want to elucidate that a little bit. Columbine happened as I was going into high school. Virginia Tech happened when I was in college. There's been a nightclub, there's been a concert, there have been theaters, there's been a Walmart. But the two that stand out the most for me are when Newtown happened and I was holding my newborn. And first graders and their teachers lost their lives through gun violence. And when my daughter was a fourth grader, a bunch of fourth graders lost their lives at the same time. I've carried gun violence almost my entire youth. And I am angry, and I know that others are angry. And as a municipality, it's really hard to make changes that are going to make a difference, but we can try. So let me change it to a different tact. After that Friday was the first meeting of the Doña Ana County Juvenile Justice Consortium. As I'm a person of let's do some stuff, that always gets me in trouble, and now I'm the chair of that, which was a very strange conversation to have that week.
And we actually wanted to have a conversation about, let's make this a working board. What does that look like? What can we do for our youth in Las Cruces? The youth that I have in my house that are going to grow into this city, hopefully. And it was a really good place for people to be vulnerable, honestly, in that day. We were saying, how is this impacting your organization? We had LCPS there, we had Peak Behavioral Health, we had LCPD represented, we had the county, we have Parks and Rec, we have Youth Diversion, FYI, CYFD. We're all there at a table, and it waxes and wanes. And I have Chief Ordonez, who you saw earlier with the MRVDA board. She is my co-chair right now, and we're talking about what can we do. And that day was more about how we are feeling and how that impacts us. But there's a flaw in our system right now for us specifically that I'd like to address, and I'd like to make that plea to the younger crowd that was here that always leaves. But I understand, like, I have been the youngest person in many rooms, and my hair is starting to get gray, and now I'm still bringing down the age limit on some of the meetings I go to. I want to encourage kiddos to come to this, and I say kiddos really respectfully. Like, I was there. I was in my 20s, and people in their 60s were super happy that I was here. Sorry if that's a harder statement to hear, but yes, I'm aging up into it, so I'm excited. Join us for these meetings. Our next one, we meet every 2 months. I'm praying that I'm getting this right. May 22nd, noon at City Hall. We want you at the table to tell us what exactly we can do, how we can do this better, because we're all there. We're all doing what we can. And I'm just also, someone had stated there too, I think it was Robert Nunez, who had said, there are successes in our city, and we have to focus on that too, what we can do and how we're doing it. Start small a lot of times. That week it was just them talking about how they were feeling. Or Weed and Seed had one of the students, like they were impacted. They were talking about it. So again, I want to see some of the younger people at these meetings. I'm calling y'all out. You can come and have a conversation with us here and see what the resources are. So that's it. That's all I have.
Kind of along the same lines, I've lived in Las Cruces 57 years, and that event was quite shocking to me. And so therefore, I think everyone on this council wants to introduce something that could help. And my aim would be the community meetings. I think that's an excellent idea with the youth. But I also like to see the City of Las Cruces budget more money for really good after-school programs. I like to see those programs expanded. I like to see more social workers and therapists hired at Las Cruces Public Schools. I've been talking to the superintendent. I did a tour of La Clinica. There's quite a lot of services out there for those that have behavioral or personal problems. And I think the after-school programs would be an excellent way to bring parents. I remember when we expanded the after-school programs with Dolores Archuleta in 2002, 2003, and 2005. We actually included an expense for food. So after the after-school program, the schools offered meals, and this brought the parents down. And if you have more parents bonding and eating with the kids, and then you have therapists there and social workers and the teachers being paid after I guess that's after school time, it brings the families back together, and we know more about the children know more about us, and the parents are a big influence in what's happening today. Many of these young adults have maybe a single parent or a grandparent, or sometimes no parent at all when they go home from school. So I like to see that made a priority. The second item I have is, it's a little more complicated, because I like to see job development. I looked at the economic development numbers and the jobs created, whether by Mavita, by the City of Las Cruces, or the county, and the jobs are just not there, nor are there good paying jobs. And that's where the industrial park needs to be supplemented, and it can be done by the El Paso Electric Company. And that can be done with just sitting down, and like the city manager, he could put together a meeting with our economic development department, our new economic development director, and see what we can do to actually get that extra grid built through the right-of-way. By the right-of-way, I mean what we already have the right-of-way. And so a line can be made to go up to the industrial park to provide more megawatt, more power. And I think if we have the power up there and we have the grid supplemented, then we could attract bigger companies, better paying companies. I mean, it just surprises me that Las Lunas can get Facebook. Facebook's doing a big expansion in Las Lunas. I mean, and then Carlsbad getting a 2 million square foot warehouse, Portales, Farmington. Las Cruces needs to get there. And we need to spend the millions of dollars to serve more people. And we're spending millions of dollars sometimes on projects that are only serving 50, 60, a couple hundred people. We need to spend the millions, for example, in the after-school programs, and I mean millions, to serve more kids, more youth, more recreational parks, more parks as we see, more fields, maybe more like Club Fusions or Amador Live, more places for the kid, maybe a bowling alley. Maybe we need to support more recreational facilities and reach more people. We're spending millions of dollars and not reaching thousands. We should be reaching thousands of kids, thousands. And then we should be doing the same thing, reaching people that can get jobs. We just have to prioritize where we're spending our millions right now. And we need to spend less in certain projects to actually serve more. And if we can do that, maybe with Councilor McClure's idea, my idea, and everyone on this council coming up with a bold new idea, maybe we could prevent more tragic happenings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Graham?
Well, I don't have a bold new idea, but I am going to talk about my bold ongoing idea. Councilor McClure, I love your call out to young people to come to our table. And I want to expand that to say, we want to come to your table. We want to come where you are. The impetus does not have to be on you to come to us. And I speak as somebody who has the great pleasure 2 nights a week of spending time with some of the best people in Las Cruces, and those are the elementary, middle, high school, and young adult fighters who call the Las Cruces Police Athletic League Boxing Gym, PAL Gym, home. One thing that soothed my heart a little bit on March 21st, when we started getting word of what had happened at Young Park, was that I knew that a big chunk of our boxing team was in Roswell, New Mexico, at New Mexico State Golden Gloves Championships. And not just PAL, House of Pain Boxing, Crosstown, Doniana Boxing Club. I'm focusing on one sport because that's where my history and my heart is. But I watch these programs work. And so much of it is what I've learned, especially from Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo, is making it accessible, lowering barriers, and opening your door to anyone who wants to be there. And over the past 4 years that I've been on council, the city has consistently supported my outcry for more support for PAL. And it is seen, and it is something that is currently working, and we need more of it. So that is my comment. I also talking about job development. I know at least 2 current Las Cruces police officers who came through the PAL boxing gym, and I think we've got 4 firefighters right now who came up at PAL. It's a great place to come and recruit your next class of public servants. They're warriors with hearts, and I think that's another place where I'm seeing how we can expand something that is maybe, quote unquote, just a sport into something that can have a bigger impact on our participants' lives. Yeah, that's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Corinne.
Thanks to all the insights and all the insights that came earlier. I first just want to really give enormous gratitude to LCPD and LCFD, who I know saved lives that day. I am very sure that our first responders did things in such a timely fashion and in such a well-skilled way that we can be extremely proud of their contributions. And I just want to share my appreciation for knowing that you work for our city and care about our folks in the ways that you do, including that day. And then I also want to give a follow-up to all of the community organizations that were part of the Victim Resource Center. I had the opportunity to visit with those folks who really stepped up and into, unfortunately, something that they knew was that they trained for, so that was very apparent when it got set up in a really quick way and was able to help and support community members who were visiting there. And I suspect as this crisis evolves, many folks who experience trauma of many sorts will need ongoing support, and I know that our city has that after visiting with the Victims Resource Center. So I just want to share enormous gratitude to all of the folks who responded in the various ways and brought their talents to bear to save lives at that time and now saving lives in an ongoing basis. I think I am perplexed and talking to everyone that I know about what should we do, and I don't think I've heard any singular answer that could say this is what will fix this problem. And I think anyone who has a singular answer is not really seeing or hearing what folks are saying. So I look forward to all of the opportunities that we have conversations about that. And I say that the next week we did our Thrive visits to schools. And I say this as one of the most heartening things. I visited Mrs. Quesada's 4th grade bilingual class, and the student who was there, this was during a time when the Allen Theaters was hosting a film festival for all of the LCPS schools, including these kids in 4th grade, many of whom had acted in a I don't know, avant-garde dinosaurs in space movie with one of their classmates. And it reminded me that we can never see young people as a risk, only as a hope. And I say this as someone who works at the community college, and I see and feel hope from my students all the time. And so the contrast of those things, this weekend visiting with the people who volunteer for the city of Las Cruces, thank you for the invitation. It was an extraordinary event to get to meet so many people who contribute as coaches for sports teams at the rec center, who are training people to do food service, speaking of job development, who are working as docents at the museums, and seeing all of those folks who are engaged, all different ages, both young people and older folks working with young people and old folks, teaching them Tai Chi, and Dungeons and Dragons and whatever else, a myriad of extraordinary things that folks are doing as volunteers. I feel the contrast of the despair that comes from a tragedy, and the hope that comes from the many people who are doing extraordinary things in our community all the time. And so I want to give gratitude to those folks, including those volunteers that we saw this weekend. That was a really great opportunity, and I hope to continue to engage with those volunteers. And I love the ways that our city provides places for people all across a range of spectrums, and I just hope that we can expand that and fill that role in the ways that make our community stronger and more hopeful. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Flores.
Thank you. I want to share, share with you. I think we're trying to look at solutions here, and maybe they're just little grains of sand going into a huge bottle, but it should help. I want to share with you what Maria Flores, some of you may know her. She served on the Las Cruces school board for many, many years, I think 12 years, 14 years. And she would visit classrooms. She would just go to different schools and sit and talk to children. And on one occasion, or in visiting this class, she saw that this little girl never went to lunch. You know, there was, kids would go out, you know, get their little bags or whatever, and there weren't any free lunches there. But she'd sit there with the bag, her little brown bag, at her desk. And so Maria, Mrs. Flores, asked that little girl, aren't you going to eat your lunch? And she'd say, no, I'm not hungry. And she'd say, oh, okay. And this happened. And then it happened, you know, it went on and on. And so what Maria discovered at one point was that she didn't have any food in that bag. She had a rock that made it look like there was food in that bag. And that's probably one of the most heartbreaking stories that, that I've heard. And this is our LCPS schools. The other story that she shared, anyway, so she would actually go in, and former Mayor Miyagishima did this too. I think he still does it. Goes in and talks to kids, just, makes arrangements, of course, with the school district, the school. And so on another occasion, Maria, Mrs. Flores, was talking to the kids and asking them, just going around and asking them, what is your favorite activity at school? What is it that you like about coming to school? And the kids would say, oh, I see my friends, I like my teacher, I like to read, I like recess, et cetera, et cetera. She came upon this little girl who reluctantly replied, and she was a very low voice and almost embarrassed. Well, she probably was embarrassed, and she said, I come to eat. And when Maria shared this story with me, there were just, about 2 or 3 of us who have been in the classroom. I was a substitute teacher for LAUSD while my kids were young. And you would see that children had problems. And, but at any rate, it was really heartbreaking to think that, well, it's heartbreaking. I'm sure that you're sitting there thinking that those are horrible stories, and they are. And this is going to, we're trying to look at solutions, but we can't get to solutions unless we really know the fountain or the root of the world we live in today. And I, really salute and praise my colleagues for their contributions. And, but, I think one of, and I'm not saying this is the root problem, because there's a lot of things that need correcting in our world, but you can't function without food. I mean, these are children who are going to school to get food, and I know now, I think that schools are providing breakfast and lunch, even during the holiday season. like when they're off for summer or, spring break or whatever. So what we have now, we have, we have another joint powers agreement with the LCPS. So the City of Las Cruces and LCPS worked on the, on the proposal for the JPA from the state of New Mexico. And I was with the League of Women Voters at that time, and I participated somewhat, not, I wasn't one of the leaders or anything, but to create this JP, Joint Powers Agreement, JPA, so that we could set up community schools. So we do have community schools, and they're thriving, and Councillor Graham sits on that board. Initially, it was Greg Smith, ¿cómo se llama? Anyway, there were three of us, and then Tessa. Tessa was one of them. Greg Smith was another one. And then, and it was really sad to hear. We meet once a month, and it was really sad to hear how a lot of these children, a lot of the children in our schools, don't come from homes where there's a meal, for breakfast. There's a meal for dinner when they're home, and a lot of other, a lot of other issues. But what has happened with the community schools, I think, I don't know if there's a measure, but from we meet once a month, and the principals are very committed. And there's one principal, Sherry Love, who is at the Doña Ana Elementary School, and her area is like in the boonies sometimes. And when kids are maybe absent because they had a cold or whatever, measles, it's fine. But if they're absent more than 2 or 3 days, she actually goes out to those homes to find out what the child, why the child isn't in school. And then she takes whatever measures that are appropriate to make sure that the child gets back in school. And, I don't think we have a report on that in terms of, anyway, a lot of the children are thriving in all of those schools. And so I think that that's a start. And I think recognizing that our children come first, because if a child is not eating, if a child is, if there's, and then, a lot of these homes, there's unemployment, frustration, and then they take it out on the kids. And all of this comes out too, which is very, very, very sad. It's a tragedy. But it's like, we have to look at those root issues before we can come up with solutions. And in the meantime, I think it's good that we're applying Band-Aids. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, everyone. I was a little bit dreading this moment, actually, because I don't know, what do you even really say? Except, I guess, what's on your heart. And my heart is deeply broken for the families in Las Cruces who lost their loved ones much too soon, for the people that were there that will be forever impacted, that will forever carry this with them, for first responders that will also always carry this with them. And that's hard. And no amount of solutions that we come up with now will take that away. So that's just deeply heartbreaking. And as I started thinking about what I wanted to say today, I found that there have actually been 87 mass shootings in the United States since the year began, since 2025. There's been 87 mass shootings, and actually the data was only up till April 5th, which didn't include a shooting that happened at a mall in Fort Collins, Colorado yesterday, where my brother lives. Where 2 died, and there was 1 juvenile suspect. Every town, the organization says that firearms are the leading cause of death for American children and teens. And there's an article recently that said that 6 of the 9 deadliest mass shootings in the United States since 2018 were by people who were under 21 or younger, predominantly young men. And so I don't know if all of those communities that have experienced this awful tragedy, like now we're on this list, right? And I don't know if those communities also struggle with not enough laws, bad laws, lack of police, whatever it might be. I don't know those details. What I do know is that there's a very common thread, and the thread is that children and teens can easily access guns, and people die. And that, I think I've also been feeling a lot of shame around the very normalized cycle that we go through around mass shootings. We say our thoughts and our prayers. Some of us, are very angry for a while, and it sort of sticks with us. I never really considered what happens in that community the day after, what happens in that community the week after, what happens 2 weeks later, a month later, 6 months later, a year later, right? How does that community come together to heal? And I hope that we can do that in Las Cruces. I think I've seen a lot of things that make me sad in terms of responses, but I've also seen a lot of things that make me hopeful. And some of the things that, I want to commit to are, one, continuing to center the voices of youth, especially youth that were there that night, youth that we have tagged as quote unquote troubled youth. I want to understand their lives, their environments. I want them to help us, whatever initiatives come out of this tragedy, programming, education, infrastructure, policy, that it's led by youth, by directly impacted youth. That feels like a commitment that I'm very strong on. One of the ways that I hope we can do this, and FYI is, and you all saw them here today, they're already committed to this. But they will be, they're willing, and they stepped up to lead some youth conversations with the city. We'll pull in the schools. I've invited my colleague, Councilor Graham, to join, and some city staff to join those planning meetings. But as soon as details on that come out, I think we should all go and listen, just deeply listen about what youth in our community, especially if they've been justice involved, have to say about what they need and wish to see in our community. That's one. Number two, I sort of immediately started thinking about what diversion looks like in our community, and I found that out of district court here, there's no diversion program for juveniles involved in any kind of violence or crime. The second judicial district court does have a program that's been tremendously successful called the Community Gun Violence Intervention Program, specifically focused on people ages 14 to 21. In order to qualify for this program, they must be justice involved with juvenile charges stemming from gun use. They must attend groups in person, and they must be able to engage in programming. 81% of program graduates have no new felony offenses to date. There's been many hundreds of referrals that have come from many of the partners, like Bernalillo County, the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office, the Albuquerque Fire Department, New Mexicans to Prevent Gun Violence, which I've also spoken to, Albuquerque Public Schools, and many other partners that have said, yes, we want to do this because we don't want to wait until youth commit even worse crimes to then say, go to jail for the rest of your life. We want to intervene. If they're already in the system, let's divert. Let's focus on diversion. And Councilor McClure, maybe I'll give this to you, and this is perhaps a great project for the juvenile justice continuum folks that you are part of. I feel really strongly about this. I believe that there are many wheels that we don't have to reinvent. There are programs out there that exist that I think can have, I want to pursue things that are evidence-based. I want to pursue things that we know will work. Curfews do not work. The evidence, in fact, shows the exact opposite of that, right? And so I want us to respond in ways that will support our community to thrive, and will bring those, especially if there's some sort of special legislative session to come out of this later in the year. These are the kinds of things that I will be fighting for. These are the kinds of programmings that I will ensure and I will fight to advocate to bring money to our community for. And then lastly, the last thing I wanted to point out that I really hope the city engages in conversation with, I was really happy that Angelica with La Piñon came. I was there last week and got to meet so many of their staff and talk about so much of what they do. They actually had a very similar sort of community intervention program through the J. Paul Taylor Juvenile Detention Center that focused specifically on gun violence, and they had a curriculum that they would go and teach the kids that were there, and it was tremendously successful. They ran out of money, though they did tell me that there is $9 million out of DOH for this that the county sadly decided to turn down. But I'm hoping, Ikani, that maybe you or someone on staff can reach out to Angelica to talk more about the potential collaboration opportunity that can exist here if this pot of money already exists and they just need that governmental body to say, yes, we will take that and provide it to the folks already doing the work. These are the things that I'm committed to and hope to, continue talking about more in detail. But yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you to the rest of the council. Thank you all for what you're bringing up is showing the care that we have for this community, and we want to come with some solutions. We want to have the accountability, the prevention, and the intervention. So I thank you all for the comments. And before I get to some of those comments, I just want to bring up some of on the agenda, it's board comments, and I do have a board comment with Mesilla Valley Economic Development. So last week there was a couple of meetings. The cold storage unit that has been talks in the works for several years is now, they're looking at April, starting the permits. That's this month, and then hopefully breaking ground sometime in June or July. So at the industrial park. And then also there was a group of business individuals from India that the governor had gone out to meet them last summer. And so they look like they're going to be starting some businesses in Albuquerque, but they wanted to come down here and see southern New Mexico and see what the potential is for expanding. So we were able to meet with them and have some good conversations and tell them how much better the green chili is down here and the friendly people. So hopefully we can convince them. But we are saddened by what took place at Young Park, and it is a devastation, and we never want to say that that's our community. And I know there's a lot of good there. We're sad, we're frustrated, we have anger, but we're not here to blame. I mean, it's up to us as leaders of this community to find some solutions, to find some intervention and prevention. But it's just not right, and I do have to say this, it's wrong to come and blame the police and to blame Chief Story for a comment that he makes. This was not his fault. I've said this over and over about public safety, whether it's a police department or it's a fire department. There is intervention, there is prevention, there is education, but their primary duty is to respond, They never started the fight, they never started the fire. They just respond to it. So I thank them for all the work they do. Thank you, Chief Story, for your leadership, Chief Daniels for your leadership in public safety. And we'll continue, and we'll put the resources, and we'll do everything we can to support that, because it's a community that we want to protect and be proud of. With some of the things that go on, I've been very fortunate to share, as other council have mentioned, with Thrive, con cariño to the public schools. And it's great to see that there are some students out there. And so when we start looking at all the negativity, I want to say thank you to the parents and the teachers that are sending their kids to school and that are encouraging and motivating them. We went to Centennial for the first one that we did, and it was the high school students. I believe he was a senior, and that classroom was calculus. Monday through Friday, for 2 hours every morning, that's how they start their day, with calculus. That's amazing. That's something to be proud of, and that's something to say we have a future. So I was very pleased to be a part of that. I've mentioned that I've adopted Hermosa Heights as my school. So every Thursday that I'm in town, I walk with those kids to school to show them that leadership cares. And I get invited to several programs. Last week they had the NDI, the National Dance Institute, that came down, and different kids in the class performed, and it's all about movement. It's about movement and exercise. And the 4 things that they worked on were, aside from the physical activity and the movement, was to know these 4 things. Work hard, do your best, never give up, and be healthy. And that's what we have to do as a community. That's what we have to do. And those are the programs and the things that are going on. The governor came down. She gives her condolences. We had a meeting with other elected officials, legislators, senators, and what we've came up with that is different intervention. This summer we will have the youth program between the county and the city to employ students at the high school level so they can have the internships with the city, with county. And if we get enough funding, we can start looking at local businesses to also have intern high school students so that we can get them involved in the workplace and see what it's like to be responsible and have a job and have some accountability in what they do day in and day out. And this is a great way of doing it, and we look forward to all the funding that we can get from our governor for that. And I think that's all I had. And so I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor Enriquez, Mayor Pro Tem Coleman, City Council, Ikani Tomopiao, City Manager, and just have a few announcements. In public comment, Stewards Drive was brought up, and I do want to thank Public Works for the update, working with Sonia ACM. Apparently, the section of the Stewards that's in question is private property. So the challenge that is happening is we're maintaining, from my understanding, the property that is city property, but the property, a chunk that is private property, that's something that hasn't been in maintenance for in question of ownership. But we're looking into it. I have been told that we'll reach out to a property owner and have some discussions with them. But I just wanted to bring some light to those who are not tracking this. But thank you to the resident who brought this to our attention, or continues to bring this to our attention. Another issue, and last from public comment, that I wanted to share an update. Conex Box was mentioned. This was something that was asked to our police, and so just an update from Chief Story that this was up and running in October of 2024. So again, just a question saying if this was something up and running, and I just wanted to share that the Chief and PD has been running this since October 2024. So thank you, Chief, for that update there. Regarding Quality of Life Department, we have a few updates. Las Cruces Museums are gearing up for 2 annual events with their education team. 1, the first annual STEM Festival on April 12th, and 2, our 11th annual pictograph event resulting in the painting of an indigenous mural on the exterior of the museum on April 19th. Also, last Saturday, just a heads up, March 29th was Brannigan's Library's Wizard of Oz Day. We had a Wizard of Oz themed event, from costume contest to crafts and trivia. This turned into a popular event with 75 participants who stayed most of the day. We'll be working to make this a regular event. And if you could see a photo that I have in front of me, there are 4 employees, really cute. And it's a fun picture. It is themed Wizard of Oz, and I just want to give them kudos for having the courage to share this with me. Library staff dressed up with the Wizard of Oz Day. Library Assistant 2, Beatrice Rudisell as a Munchkin. Library Assistant 2, John Stout as the Cowardly Lion. Library Assistant 1, Lainey Lujan as Glenda. And Library Assistant 1, Megan Romero as Dorothy. So thank you for quality of life, being so creative with that, and kudos for 75 participants. Last, Parks and Rec, just a few updates. Adult Basketball League online registration begins Tuesday, April 22nd at 9 a.m. until capacity is met. KLCB, Keep Las Cruces Beautiful, will be hosting a free community tire dump day on Saturday, April 12th from 8 a.m. to noon. That will allow residents the opportunity to dispose of used tires at the following locations: East Mesa Rec Center and Young Park. KLCB will also be hosting free Dump Your Junk. Starts Saturday, April 12th through Saturday, April 19th, and the weekend of April 26th and 27th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Amador Transfer Station. All residents can dump trash for free at the transfer stations during this event. And then just the status of sport fields. Ron Gaia is open for day and night play. MAG, PAWS have been open for daytime programming, including weekend tournaments. Hardy will open starting tomorrow, and Apodaca softball field remains closed until further notice. Thank you, Mayor and Council. That's all.
Thank you, Connie. Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved by Flores.
Second.
This is on the motion to adjourn the meeting. Counselor McClure?
Yes.
Counselor Matisse?
Yes.
Counselor Graham?
Yes.
Counselor Cran?
Yes.
Counselor Flores?
Yes.
Counselor Bencomo?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes.